everybody. So we just played last Saturday, so a week ago today. We played the fifth session of the adventure here, where the Goblins have officially conquered the town of Thaith. For those of you who haven't been around the whole time, the town of Thaith is the small elven port town that was conquered by the Goblins. Basically, there was like 200, the small town of 200 people. There's an attached port, and the Goblins have conquered the port, went through the forest, had a bunch of encounters, and as of last session, they have fully conquered the town. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. So they kind of threw me a curveball last session. We'll talk about that when we get to it. The first thing I like to do when I go over this is kind of just go over each section of the last session and kind of reflect on things, see what I did well, what I did poorly, what I can fix, what I should be working on, etc., etc. So, looking at it now, when the party jumped back in, they were kind of hiding in this forest, and they were talking. They were coming up with a plan. Before we even got there, though, so Nas, the character who was playing Even, he was having audio problems, so we actually started the session 15 minutes late, which was kind of crappy. Because I was already cramming a lot of stuff in. We only have 3-hour sessions, so it was a little crappy to have to start 15 minutes late, but we made it work. So they started there, and they were in the forest, and they were trying to come up with what sort of plan they could have, what they wanted to do. And like I said in the last planning session, they were debating at the end of the previous session, should they be sneaky and go and sneak in and take the kidnap the mayor or talk to the mayor, or if they should do something more overt, like just charge the center of the town and see what happens. And the reason they were having a discussion is because they were told by some mysterious stranger, this old odd fisherman who's going to be like a recurring supernatural character in the campaign, that basically he knew they were here to conquer this town. He didn't want them to just go in there and start slitting throats. He didn't want to have an elf genocide over here. So he said, hey, if you go here and you beat these 3 champions, you find these 3 people that are like the strongest people in town, and you present their items, you show that you've bested them, you can do this peacefully. You can go ahead and not have to murder everybody. And that's kind of where they were at. And they were told they could do this, so they had gotten 2. Yeah, exactly. That sounds good, right? So they had gotten 2 of those items in the previous session, because again, everything takes longer than I think. So whenever I start making plans and we have these 3-hour sessions, things end up taking more time. People role play a bit longer. They find something interesting and like to kind of run with it. Long story short, at the end of the 3rd session, they had only killed this druid here, and they had killed this champion with a shield. So they had like fought a fighter, they had fought a druid, and they were supposed to fight this mage to get a 3rd item, and they didn't do that. So that ended up happening in the last session. So they had these 2 items, and they were trying to figure out, can we go sneak into the mayor? They kept seeing the mayor going in and out of this building over here. Can we go back and forth? Like, we see her going like that? Can we sneak in there and kind of just capture her, and maybe with just these 2 items say, is this enough? Basically, like, hey, we've killed these 2 champions. We're here. We're causing all kinds of problems for you. You should surrender now. So they were having the discussion, and even the barbarian was like, let's just go fight the entire town. Like, why don't we just go walk and fight the entire town? So they were debating that, and they role-played a bit of that 2 sessions ago, and then they talked about it a bit on Discord between sessions, and then they even had more discussion during the beginning of the session in character, trying to figure out what they wanted to do. And eventually even talked them into it. I'm not sure how or why. I really I was expecting Squirrel to do the sneaky like we talked about, but even said, you know what, I'm just gonna go over here, I'm gonna pop around this corner, I'm gonna make myself visible and then run and hide, and then ideally someone's gonna chase him, and then the rest of the party would be over here kind of flanking or something like that. So they didn't have a hard and fast plan, and I remember I was listening to them like talk about it in character, what they were gonna do, and when they were done, then they were saying, okay, we're setting up. I'm like, well, I don't know the plan, and that might be good. I, as the GM, do not understand your plan. I hope you guys do, because I was listening, and I didn't understand what you were trying to do. So, Even did what he did. Even is very sneaky. I forget what, he has a feat or something that lets him be, like, do some weird sneaky thing. Very sneaky, it's called. That makes sense. Taller folk really pay attention to you, blah, blah, blah. When you move 5 feet further, when you take your sneak action, up to your speed in addition, as you continue to sneak. Yeah, so basically, even if you are kind of, not plain sight, but even if you're, like, near other things, you can kind of sneak back out of sight. So he kind of does this weird, like, walk. He describes it really fun. And basically, he disappears. Like, he walks in weird angles, and all of a sudden, you think he's going that way, and he's gone. So he came up over here, he made eye contact, looked all creepy at some elves, who shrieked and pointed at him and drew attention over there, and he fell back into the woods. And he rolled a really good stealth check, and basically they shouted over there, and a couple of rounds later, the mage shows up with a guard looking for him. And then the party says, ooh, the mage, that's the one we need, that's the third item we need. So now we got that. We were discussing that in the last session prep session, the last session prep stream, what do you want to call it? Basically, how do we convince them to try to find the mage first, as opposed to sneaking in and kidnapping the mayor? We didn't want to force it, but we wanted to kind of suggest that if possible. And this is how that ended up happening. They kind of stumbled into town doing it. So the mage and this guard get over here. He runs initiative, so he runs away up to here. The guard runs over here and says, "Hey, he's not here. I don't see him anymore. I'm gonna go chase him." And the mage made a really good perception check and saw as Even was running from here to here. So Even was making his move, and the mage saw him and started to engage. And as I said in the previous session prep stream, the Elven Mage is a level 3 NPC, and they are all level 1 PCs, and the guards that I had on their team are like level 1, I think, right? Yeah, level 1. So this was a severe encounter. This was like deep into severe territory for a 4-person party, because G-Pain sat out last session. He kind of didn't show up, so we had 4 people. So a level 3 mage was a very big deal. And on top of all that, they didn't really heal up. So they have Puck was there, and I gave Puck his spell slots back because I'm being merciful basically at first level and not making them have trouble. But he used both of his spell slots in the previous session, fighting over here with the druid and everything, and I just gave them back to him to be nice. But they only had like 1 health potion. I think Franco drank 1, and I don't think they had any other ones. And as we said in the last session, they kind of beat themselves up about it a bit, actually. There were Goodberries here in this tree. They knew that. They saw that they fought a druid there. They saw that the druid very specifically ate a Goodberry in front of him. And like they saw this happen. They knew it was there. They commented on it during the session. But then, like, when they were retreating, they completely forgot there were Goodberries there. So they ran away from here, ignoring the Goodberries, ignoring all the free healing that I was, like, throwing at them and kind of hinting at. They hid in the woods. They fled all the way up there, crossed the river, and came over here to, fight on this side. So they didn't think to go back. They didn't think to go and get the Goodberries. They didn't think to do anything like that. So they walked into this fight with a severe level enemy. Like, Even was at like half health, maybe, or maybe 2/3 health, and other people were hurt. I don't have the exact, hit point totals on me right now, but they walked into this not healed all the way up. And again, it was an Elven Mage and the guard, who was mostly just there as a speed bump, but they do have a decent club. I think I took it away from him because they looted him, but it was like it did 1d6 plus 4 damage, and he hit fairly often. Like, that's not nothing for against level 1 party. So they fought this Elven Mage, and the mage is like dropping, 2nd level spells. He's like, hey, I'm gonna cast. Oh, she's a mage. It's she. I'm gonna cast Heat Metal on you, and Even made his save, but that was still a lot of damage that came off of Heat Metal. Let me see if I can actually mesh the spell button so we can see. Spells, Heat Metal. Yeah, so even if you make your save, I think you take the initial thing, or maybe you take half of it. He succeeded, which I guess was half damage. Yes, and then no persistent fire. So still half of 46. It was a significant amount to a first level character even having it, but it didn't heat up and burn him, which means he's not going to horribly die. So that was great. And then she shot magic missiles, I think, at Franco. And then when Even was getting too close, she used Flaming Sphere, and that is what murdered him. So I dropped the Flaming Sphere, and it does 3d6 fire damage, but if you save against it, you take nothing, basically. So that's the gimmick. The gimmick is if you save, you take nothing. So it's not like, it's not like a blast that you take half when you get hit by it if you make your save. So she cast it on him. He took full damage and was basically down after that. And it kind of went sideways from there. So once Even was down, I think Puck was on top of the roof slinging and also using his 2 level 1 spell slots to heal. So he's using the 2 action version of heal for the first time, which it makes it ranged, and you do D8 plus whatever, plus another full 8 if you use the 2 action version. So he was healing like that, but he was rolling poorly. So I think he healed Even, but Even was still barely alive. And Franco was coming up. He was dealing with this smith who was basically just cowering the whole time. I was role-playing him as very much afraid, but he did have like a smithing hammer and was willing to defend himself. But Franco eventually just walked right past him, and the smith didn't want to get engaged. So, but between that and the guard that was there, everything was going kind of sideways on him. and Even was on the ground. He stood up. He tried to get away, but the fireball was still on top of him. And I asked, like, hey, do you want to crawl away and stand up or whatever? He said, no, I want to stand up and kind of use acrobatics or whatever to tumble around. And he failed his acrobatics check. He failed his reflex save. It took damage again and went down again. And then he was in trouble. Then he started failing the stabilized checks, or whatever they call them in Pathfinder 2. While this was happening, Puck's up there still slinging with his sling at the mage. And Franco's over here. Franco comes in and stabs the mage a bunch with the sword, and at some point, I forget when, but he even jumps up and bites the guard because he's a shark instinct barbarian, so he goes enraged, he bites. He actually knocked down this guard with his bite, but then eventually the mage knocked him back down, and now he's at like dying 3 and in real trouble. And long story short, they didn't get to him in time. They ran out of spells. I think at one point Puck used the 3-action version to do like a channel heal to heal a bunch of people, but it still wasn't enough to keep Even alive. And he died to the fireball. And it was kind of a shitty situation because, like, right after he died, like, immediately the next action, Franco skewered the mage with a finisher, whatever. Like, he's a braggart swashbuckler, so he stabbed it in the neck and got, like, an extra 1d8 damage or 1d6 damage, whatever it is, and, murdered her outright. And, he, basically even died on the ground on his next turn before. And Squirtle was in the woods with a healing potion, like, ready to run over and pour it in his mouth, but they didn't do it. So, it was a really crappy situation, and I felt I didn't really want him to die. I don't know, this is, maybe I'm a little bit too merciful, maybe I'm a bit too nice. But I really didn't feel like he should die here. And I was wondering in my head while this was going on, like, was this too hard of an encounter? Did I do this severe thing? How much of it is their fault for not getting the healing done? Blah, 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 blah. And I kind of went back and forth in my mind, and I guess they could kind of see that I was unsure if I wanted to murder. I think I delayed too long to confirm the fact that Even was dead. So they started pleading a bit, and I decided that, yeah, you know what, we'll let him live, because at the end of the day, I wanted Even to survive. I wanted Mike to continue playing Even. And I kind of ruled in my head that I'm stingy with hero points. It's something I really need to work on. I think I've mentioned a couple times in my stream. Because in Pathfinder 1, hero points are a bit better, and they persist. Like, you can keep your hero points between sessions. And in Pathfinder 2, they change it so that you get 1 hero point at the start of each session, and you lose any that you might have accrued in the previous ones. So they encourage you to burn them during the session. And also, they're a bit weaker. You can do fewer things with them. I think basically it's just you can re-roll any d20 you just rolled. Or if you're about to die, you can use them. So theoretically, if Even had an extra one, he could have used one to not die. But again, in my mind, I've been playing Pathfinder 1 for like 10 years now, whatever, since it came out. And in my mind, like, I don't award hero points usually all the time. We usually just do it at the end of the session. We do like an MVP award, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not used to kind of handing them out. You have a GM that was really stingy with hero points, so yeah, sorry. I am one of those. And it's not just because I'm not like stingy on purpose. It's not like I think people aren't doing great things. It's that I forget, and my mind keeps going back to Pathfinder 1 rules, and I think hero points are better than they are. So it's something I really need to get better at. I really need to, like, maybe just set a timer to remind myself, like, every 15 minutes, something like, hey, did anybody do something really cool in the last 15 minutes? You should have given me a hero point. Or do something to kind of alert myself. I've also thought it'd be cool if I had if I had some stuff I could, the Twitch points, whatever they're called. Yeah, maybe alert would work out really well. Just something to remind myself, like, hey, you should be giving these out, because they're definitely doing cool stuff, like Puck's climbing on the roof and doing slings. Franco was doing his little mockery thing on the smith, and Even was role playing himself really good. Yeah, well, well, bits is one thing, but also they have the whatever the points are called. I forget, like I don't know. I'm still new to Twitch. I don't have enough followers to have the affiliate things, but the points you get just for hanging out in the chat, they kind of accrue over time, and if you do certain things, you can get more of them. It's not specifically bits, because bits I think you have to pay for, but whatever the regular points are called, you can name your currency, whatever it is. And basically, I've seen in other streams, it's really cool. You can give hero points. Like, you accrue 100 points or whatever, you can give out hero points. So I think that would be pretty cool that the players could, or the viewers, I should say, could interact and, affect people and give them stuff like that. And also take the pressure off me looking to see who to give hero points to, because I'm just bad at it. But yeah, in general, I need to be better. And in the moment, again, I went back and forth for maybe like 5 minutes during the session, figuring out if I wanted Even to die or not. And part of me was like, yes, they should die. I do all my rolls out in the open. almost all my rolls. There's very few things that I do privately. So like when we're fighting and I'm rolling this fire damage, or if I'm rolling an attack, I roll them publicly. And if the guard crits, the guard crits, and I roll the crit damage publicly. So it's very, you know, that's kind of how I've always done it. I've always been playing in VTTs. I think I've only played like 1 or 2 games on an actual table. So I've always done it in VTTs, and I've always done like damage and attacks publicly. And you die, you die. But I don't know. I was feeling, again, there was various things happening. I was feeling merciful, and I told him no more freebies. Like Genie in Aladdin 1, no more freebies. This is it. And I decided I would give him like a hero point and just kind of retcon that he used it right before hitting dying for. To, you know, end his dying condition, just be marked unconscious. And then, as Squirrel was saying, he had a potion in his hand. He ran over and poured it down his throat, and bada bing, he's alive and conscious. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Again, I have mixed feelings about it, but I'm glad Even's alive. I didn't want to kill him. The guy who plays Even, Nas, he is having a baby right now, or his wife, I should say, is having a baby, like, right now. So I think he's out for a little bit. I think he's going to have, we play again on Saturday, and I'm pretty sure he's going to have, like, a 5-day-old. Yeah, tell him you said thanks. He's going to have a 5-day-old baby, in addition to his 3-year-old baby. So I'm pretty sure he's out for the next session, if not a couple more. So maybe I could have killed him and got away with it. Maybe no one would have minded if Even was dead, if he's not even going to be playing, but it is what it is. So yeah, that fight was severe, and again, I've only been GMing Pathfinder for these 5 sessions, for Pathfinder 2. I've always been doing Pathfinder 1 for a long time, but just Pathfinder 2 for these last 5 sessions, and this is one of the first times I threw an actual severe encounter at them. I think the Druid one with the Leshies that we went over a couple times ago, I think that one was maybe the top of moderate, maybe the bottom of severe, but this was like legitimately in the middle of severe. And like I said before, they came into it half-cocked. They came into it with, you know, not full health, and without a real plan. I mean, like, they claimed they had a plan. I don't know what the plan actually was, but I don't know, even just kind of walked in up to the mage and got maged on. But yeah, so they won, they healed, and then, you know, the mayor came out of here with a scribe and this priest of Serenre, and they started talking. So, something I didn't think of, and I really should have, is the fact that Squirrel, the goblin, is the only one who speaks Elven. G. Payne, the bard, also speaks Elven, but he was not there. So it was only Squirrel could talk to the elves, really. And I didn't do anything to hand wave that. I didn't make it so that, oh, some of the elves speak Goblin, because in the story we've created, the elves don't even know what goblins are. They're actually confusing them for Fae over and over again. That's kind of come up a bunch of times. And they don't know who the goblins actually are. So, yeah, so Squirrel, the ranger over here, he was the only one who could actually talk to the elves. And in my mind, I was thinking that Franco would be doing something, because Franco's like, he wants to play the chief, he wants to be this person that does all these things, but then he couldn't speak to the elves, so he kind of took a back seat to the role-playing, and Squirrel was doing most of it, which I guess, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, so what happened was the mayor came out, and Squirrel, you know, took the items. They took them all out. They had the staff from the druid. They had a shield from the champion. They had a jewel spellbook from the mage, and they presented it to the mayor. So why are the elves and goblins in conflict again? So it's a very thin lore. I don't have a rich backstory here, because like I said before, my primary goal is to get to this Odyssey type adventure that we can talk about a bit later if you haven't caught up on it. But basically, the elves have their own empire, and to them, the elves are the only people in the world that matter. They're like a xenophobic, borderline racist empire that basically built this elven empire and pushed everybody else out of the way. They pushed all the dwarves into the mountains, and they pushed all the gnomes over there, blah, blah, blah. And they don't have a mixed race society. They have an elven society. And there is only one elven empire. However it happened, all of the elves get along well enough that they're not internally fighting. You know, there's cloak and dagger in the courts or whatever, but they're not actually having wars internally. So there's this one big elven empire, and to them, everybody else is just barbarians. So, like, they pushed all the dwarves over there and the humans over there, and they did all this stuff, and they have their empire, and they don't think of anybody else as an empire, as a kingdom, as someone to trade with, or talk to. So they have their empire. They're just minding their own business. and they kind of got complacent, I guess. So they established their empire like hundreds of years ago, and then they turned inward and started focusing on culture and blah 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 blah. Once they had everything, once they took over all their empire, they kind of just sat on it. They were so powerful and so strong, and they pushed everybody else so far away that they just kind of sat there and kind of rot from the inside, or whatever you want to call it. They kind of just focused on culture, and their military collapsed and stuff like that. So now they've got this giant empire, and they still have this haughtiness about them that everybody else in the world is garbage. I think during the session, they called them Loxo Lee. They called the humans like mud people. Like, why did you bring the dirty mud people here? What are they? Because they see them as nobodies. So long story short, there's a human kingdom that's come up in the past like 3 decades or whatever it is, that's kind of taken over and integrated a bunch of their area of the world, this other continent. And, unlike the elves, they are integrating the people. They're taking the dwarves and the gnomes and even the goblins and kind of bringing them into the kingdom, and making it so that, there's this, a traditional mixed fantasy world over there. But over here are these xenophobic elves who are, their own society. They don't even acknowledge this kingdom exists, even though it's been there for like 50 years, whatever I said before. The elves don't even acknowledge it. They might not even have noticed it. They're so far looking inward, and they've been so long in their own empire, they don't even know what's going on in that continent. They've just kind of written it off. There's nothing there of value. Let the mud people have their fun up on that continent. But this empire was built, and they did integrate a bunch of other different peoples, and they got to the point where they have boats that can go across and actually engage the elf empire in a meaningful way, and they are doing that. So Opilius is the general. I think, is he on this map somewhere? Yeah, Opilius over here. He's the general, and he was basically one of the main people who conquered all the people of the northern continent where the humans are. And he is known for the integration that I mentioned. So in addition to the people being integrated in the empire, Opilius himself integrates conquered people into his army. So when he's done fighting, he doesn't go around, and he's not a horrible person. He doesn't go around slaughtering all the warriors. He sometimes inspires them to kind of join with him. So he's not there to conquer and destroy and, kill all your women and children and blah, blah, blah. He's there to, basically force you to join the human empire and, extend you these benefits, and also, take some of your warriors, go on and do this. So I wrote it up that he has like this zealotry, this fervor about him that borders on zealotry, that people see this and they are inspired to join him. So even after he's conquered a bunch of dwarves, he says, okay, now we're going on to the next thing. And a bunch of dwarves will join him, like after being conquered. Some of the best warriors may have been spared in battle or things like that. They will join him and go on to the next thing. And he's done this enough times that he has his own gaggle of people, his own troops, and he came here on this boat. Basically, the king said, we're attacking the elf kingdom, we're looking to do this, we're building the boats now. Who can do this? And Opilius, one of his prize generals, was enticed by this. This is his next big challenge in life. He's kind of pacified the northern wastes. He's going to go stick it to the elves. He wants to deal with enemies that are organized. And, he's heard tales of the ancient elven armies. He wanted to go, blah, 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 blah. So Opilius goes. He takes 60 of his troops, including a bunch of goblins. But again, it's a mixed race thing. So there's humans, there's half-orcs, there's goblins, there's gnomes, halflings, whatever. It's a whole grab bag. So he took them all, and he brought this gaggle of goblins with him. And as I said before, the whole party rolled goblins just kind of as a joke. A joke that went too far. So directly, the goblins and elves aren't really in conflict, but the human kingdom, it wants to take all this stuff from the elves. They want to kind of wrestle these port cities away from the elves and kind of cripple the elven ability to field a navy. Because, like I said before, the elves don't really consider anyone else in the world as worthy of fighting and have very little internal struggle. So they didn't even think humans were capable of building these boats. And they don't really have like a navy. Like they don't have like a combat ready navy. They have mercantile vessels to move goods around for their own purposes, but they don't have warships. So the humans have started to build warships, and they have started to build these troop transport ships, and they are basically trying to take over these port cities to deny the elves the ability to start building warships. So this was the first strike. This was basically the king's like, we're going to start doing this, and back in the human land right now, they're still building boats, and they're still raising more bigger armies. But Opilius was super stoked to do this, and took his 60 troops, and they're like a strike team to come and take this port city. This is one of the smallest port towns in the Elven Empire. It's the last one on the continent before they head down to like whatever the southern colonies, which I haven't explained or elaborated on at all. But basically, this is the last Elven settlement before you like enter the real Elven Empire or you go to their colonies. Exactly, yeah. I don't know if they're determined to stay stagnant, but basically they don't care anymore. They again they've turned inward. They don't have any enemies to fight, so their army isn't like, it's not they're not being practiced and tested all the time. They're not going out and having to fight dwarves all the time, because whatever dwarves they beat back are so beat down, they're just in the mountain. They went to the mountain, they went underground, they're gone. No one is really challenging them. They have no threats, and they don't see anybody as threats. So yeah, like these new upstart powers that they've basically been ignoring, because in an elf's lifetime, this human king that took over 30 years ago and has been uniting his stuff, that's like a drop in the bucket to them. They might not even have realized it's happening. Like, because again, they don't care. They don't believe the humans are capable of doing anything like that. They don't think they're capable of building an empire. During the role playing and stuff like that, they said the humans, all they do is destroy. The mud people, all they do is burn things down. They don't build. But they're wrong, very obviously. So yeah, so that's the kind of lore I threw in there to kind of just make it so that, okay, you get it. Every race in the world is fighting these elves. I want you to come here and fight these elves. And yeah, so they did it, and I did a good job kind of otherizing the elves. Opilius gave a big speech on the way over about how these elves, they think nothing of you, blah 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 blah. And I've been role playing that in the way the elves first see the characters, and also how they interact with them after that. So everybody is just shocked. Like when they first landed on the docks and they saw these dock hands all talking to them, they were drunk and not expecting a ship to go. And when they saw goblins jump off the boat, they were more confused than anything else. They weren't like alarmed and rising to fight. They were like, who's on this boat? Only elves to them. Only elves have sailed boats. They've never seen anybody else on a boat. They don't think other people can have boats. They might not even have seen many people of other races. And all of a sudden, a boat pulls up, and goblins and humans and dwarves jump off of it. And they're just, again, they were more confused than anything, and they just got like wiped out in the beginning. So that happened, and then in the forest, all these people, they get interact with people, and they just keep being confused. And several people have called the goblins Fae, because the elves know who Fae are. They know about what gremlins look like, and goblins and gremlins, despite the fact their names are very similar, but also the descriptions, their physical descriptions of a gremlin and a goblin are pretty close too. So they've been calling these goblins gremlins and fae and children of the first world and things like that. And I've been hinting at this, that basically the elves have no idea what a goblin is, but they know what fae are, and it seems like they've had some sort of interaction with the fae, and they respect them more than they do the other mortal races of the world. Like a human is nothing. They're mud people, whatever you want to call them. But a Fae, that seems like, they either had a battle in the past, some long war, or some sort of interaction. And I keep referring to the goblins as Fae, and that comes into part later. Guns and gears is a cannon. We can see the pansy elves get blammed. But again, I'm not sure if you caught any of my other planning sessions, but the idea is to eventually get the heck away from elves. This whole elf story, all the lore I just kind of dumped for no reason, it's all a pretense to get to, chapter 2 of the adventure, which is basically the Odyssey, but with goblins. And we can talk a bit about that in a little bit, but let's finish wrapping up the session, or the previous session, before I jump around all over the place. So they had the battle. They killed the mage. The mayor came out. Squirrel, the only one who could speak Elven, started talking to the mayor. And was like, "Hey, we've got all your stuff. We killed all the 3 champions. We have their items. Look, here's the magic book. Here's the staff. Here's the shield. They're all dead." And basically said, like, you should surrender now. And everybody started coming out. All these elves started looking around. And the mayor realized, just like the fisherman said, that they had been bested. That if this small group of Fae, there's only like 4 or 5 of them, had bested their champions, there's no hope. And there was a burning field in the distance. They saw like big black smoke, and they had heard some war horns, so they assumed there was more coming. And they said, you know what, I agree. We're, if I can save any of my people, I will. And there was a big role play scene back and forth where, long story short, the mayor agreed, we're going to surrender to you. And again, she called them Fae. She called them children of the first world, and she referenced a thing called the Pact of Lithgi, which I just made up. And I'm long story short, like, the elves and the Fae have some history, and there is some sort of pact where the elves stay in their world and the Fae stay in the first world. She's like, I don't know why you chose to break it. I don't know why you came here. But if this is how it is, this is how it's going to be. Just please spare my people. Don't harm them. And the party, specifically Squirrel, started role-playing like, we came here because there's an oncoming darkness. And they referenced the fact that they had found a hermit's journal that referenced how Gozreh had abandoned these people, and there was this coming storm, this dark storm was coming. And I was kind of making it that they're the Dark Storm, but the goblins coming and the enemies coming are the Dark Storm. But the party didn't take it that way. The party took it that they were, at least they Squirrel believes that there's a Dark Storm and that he is coming to help save them. So he was role playing like, oh no, we heard this. Here, take a look at this journal. And she's like, this journal was written by whatever the guy's name was. He was a crazy guy. It was written by Ivar, and he's a crazy guy. And so Squirrel's like, what are you talking about? This is what's happening. We've sensed this. And he kind of role played it. And again, he wasn't bluffing. He confirmed that Squirrel actually believes this. So it's not like I don't know what Will the player thinks, but Squirrel, the goblin, actually thinks that there is a darkness coming that he is here to save them from. And if he follows the words of the fisherman who told them, don't kill everybody, don't genocide everybody, do these things, kill these 3 people, take their things, that they can avoid this dark storm coming. So they went back and forth for a while, and they managed to convince the mayor that they were being sincere, that these Fae came from the First World, violating this pact, saying they would stay in the First World, because there was some sort of darkness that they felt they were required to come here and stop. So that was going really well. I really liked how they did that. And then Even, who was basically dead at this point, probably should have been dead, but is basically dead. This whole time he's talking, he's like, I need more healing potions or whatever. So they looted some things, they found some. I think there was an alchemist here, and they went into his shop, and he didn't have a whole lot, but I think they had another healing potion or 2 in there. And then he decided, I'm going to walk over to the Goodberry tree that I finally remember has good berries on it, and I'm going to go ahead and pop some in my mouth. So he's over there making survival checks, rolling well. I did have some stuff prepared if you rolled poorly. Do I have it open? Let me see if I have it open. Where is session 5? In my notes. Opening up. Yeah, so over here in my session 5 notes, I think I have, in the druid thing, bad berries. So basically, DC's 15 survival check to know that bad berries exist. Essentially, like, to know that it's entirely possible that you pick the wrong berry and you can get sick from them. So he did know that happened, and they did watch very closely when the druid ate one. Squirrel was keen to ask what color it was. And I thought that was a really good idea, because I was saying that like the good ones are like this reddish purple, this dark red purple, and the lighter you get, the worse, like, the more closer to green, unripe berries you get, the bad things can happen. So they had a pretty good idea that bad berries did exist, and they made a survival check, and he knew. And then Even made some survival checks and actually was able to pick some good berries. He picked 1 bad berry. So again, is it only DC 12 to pick a good berry, and if you got a crit success, you find 2. So I think he found 1, and then he found 2 good ones, and then he found 1 bad one. So he popped 2 of the 4. So he has in his bag, he has a bad berry, and I took a note on it. So if you eat a bad berry, you make a fortitude save, or you're sickened 1, basically. He didn't get like a very bad berry, he got a regular bad berry. So he's got 1 in his pocket, but he ate 2. He got to not full health, but healthy enough to be alive. And while he's picking all that, I had these halflings wander out of the forest, and they had a rough go of it. So I don't think, I'm not sure if I have them over here, but yeah, Gisela and Joven over here, they were really beat up. I think Joven was unconscious and Gisela was dragging him along, and they had reported that 2 of their others halflings had died. So we had some role play with Even, but Even is being played as this socially awkward, like single-minded thing. So he's over there picking berries, basically ignoring these halflings, which are saying like, "Hey, what the hell happened? Why wasn't the attack called yet?" And Even's like, "Go talk to everybody over there. I'm picking good berries." So we had like a minor interaction and sent the halflings back over here. And eventually we're all back in the center of town, and the halflings are there, and the goblins are all talking to the halflings. And the mayor asks Squirrel, who are they talking to the halflings? Because elves know who halflings are, and they're one of the mud people to the elves. And it's like, oh, they're here, they're helping us. And the mayor kind of was bitter lip about it, but looked visibly discomforted that there were halflings here. But she didn't say anything else about it. So they went on for a while, and the party basically rounded up all the elves in town. I've moved them around for a while. But they rounded up everybody in town. They told they asked the mayor for food, and the barkeep and the innkeeper want to make food, and they had some role playing. Do you really want to trust the food they serve us? Blah 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 blah. They decided yes, we would try it, and they weren't being poisoned, so it went pretty well for them. Yeah, are you a halfling friend? Yeah. You a fan of hobbitses? I played a halfling monk. Halfling fan. They're a good ancestry. I like them a lot. I played a halfling monk for I think like 15 levels through Rise of the Rune Lords in 1E. They're good stuff. But yeah, so the halflings were kind of just explaining their trauma and how they had bumped into a bunch of wood elves, and I started stressing the fact that wood elves are monsters. Like they were in the trees, they were essentially invisible. These guys, they got surprised by them. Two of them died. Jovan got knocked unconscious, and Gisela was barely able to drag him out. So we had this role playing scene where I explained the wood elves are serious business. The halflings had problems with them. And they had the interaction with the mayor, blah, blah, blah. They kind of rounded up everybody. They left them all in this gazebo, and they realized there were like 150 people or whatever in town. The town is supposed to have about 200 people, and there's a bunch of families like living out in the farms all around. But they found like maybe 120, 150 people were living in the town here. So yeah, so they rounded everybody up. They realized this is a lot of people. I don't know what we're going to do here. And they tried to figure out, how do we signal Opilius? Like, how do we tell him that we've taken over the town? Like, he hasn't even called for the assault yet. Whatever's happening, things are taking longer than they think. And I just kind of, I hand waved it. They tried to come up with a couple ideas, didn't really have anything. And I said G Payne, the bard, was still there. And he made like an illusion in the sky to kind of signal, like maybe like Opilius' flag or whatever it was, to say, hey, you know, we've taken over the city. The mayor said, oh, we can ring that bell if you want. And they were like, I don't know if I want you ringing a bell and calling more elves here, blah, blah, blah. So they made the illusion saying, hey, we conquered the town. And some more time passed. And Opilius eventually showed up. He came from down here. He kind of just walked up. And all of the elves had stood down. Like the mayor had told everybody to stand down. They sent runners out to go bring people back to town. So guards had left their posts and were now back in town and had surrendered their weapons under orders of the mayor. So Opilius comes and basically says, what the hell is happening? You know, they got a bunch of elves hanging out in this gazebo dedicated to Serenere, and none of the goblins know. They all failed their religion checks. They have no idea what anything to do with any gods are. But yeah, so like, why are all these elves hanging out in a gazebo just kind of staring at us? And the goblins begin talking to them, and they're saying, oh, this is what happened. We killed these champions. And they had a internal discussion in Goblin, which the commander does not speak. Should we tell him about this fisherman, this strange fisherman that they had bumped into, and kind of not followed the orders of, but at least took tactical advice from. They killed these 3 people. They talked to the mayor, and it turned out to work. They got the town to surrender without having to kill everybody. They decided not to tell him. For whatever, even was saying, why wouldn't we tell him? We took tactical advice from somebody. It worked. We did a good job. And Squirrel and Franco were like, no, we should not tell him about this strange person we listened to, who we might be taking orders from or something like that. We shouldn't tell him. So they decided, no, we're not going to tell him. But they told him a lot of other things and basically explained, like, hey, we beat these champions and the mayor that surrendered, blah, blah, blah. And they were acting very deferentially. They were acting kind of, what's the word? Slick and haughty, I guess. But they were acting somewhat deferential to the general. And seeing this, the mayor, who was already upset that there were halflings present, seeing, I think, 4 humans come in, because Opilius came with Tana, the bird keeper, and Orin, who was an elf expert, but he's actually a charlatan. He knows very little about elves. But he was hired on as an elf expert, and he makes a lot of bluff checks and fails them sometimes. It's pretty, it's been a fun little part of the campaign. And Lynn is a gnome herbalist. So she came, he saw these 3 humans and a gnome show up, and the mayor was just livid. And she kept asking for Squirrel, saying, what are they doing here? Why did you bring all these mud people? And then she saw them acting deferential, like, you know, saluting him and doing all this stuff. And it became clear to her that these Fae, in her mind, are working for this human. And they kind of made it, the goblins, who I thought would catch this, like, I was role playing this, all playing out. They didn't seem to either care or understand what was happening. Squirrel successfully identified that they thought we were Fae. He got that. He understood these elves think we're Fae, and this matters for some reason. They're surrendering to us as Fae, and they could tell that they don't like the halfling, and they definitely don't like the humans being here. But they didn't really run with that. They didn't think to change anything up. They just said, well, this is how it is. And they said, like, explicitly, we're like, he's our commanding officer. We're going to be like, he's running the town. He's leading the occupation. And the mayor would not stand for this. So she was basically shouting at Squirrel, who started to ignore her and just talk to Opilius. And she just got worse and worse, and, you know, not like outright racist. She wasn't shouting slurs. I guess Loxoley is kind of a slur. Calling people mud people is kind of slurish. But yeah, she wasn't like outright, you know, doing anything horrible. But she was screaming like, listen to me, get them out of this town. They don't belong here. And she's like, he said, no, they're staying. And the one out I gave them, because they went back and forth, they had some bad diplomacy checks, and he wasn't saying things that would calm her down. She said, you know what? They can sleep in the stables with the other animals. That was like the one out I was giving them. And Squirrel took a stand for non-human discrimination. And Squirrel said, no, this is how it's going to happen, and you have to be okay with that or you're out of here. And he took a stand. He took a stand against racism in this fantasy world and told that mayor she can just shut up. If she doesn't like it, she can get out. And she did. So she continued fighting for a little, well, not fighting, arguing for a little while. And eventually she stepped out of the gazebo and even one on his, like, you know, barking dog thing, basically, with his giant teeth, and scared her back in. And she was quiet for a while, but eventually she started talking up again. And Squirrel told Even or Franco, like, we have to get her out of here. The Fae are working with the humans because the Elves are too proud to... Maybe! Again, so there's some history between the Elves and the Fae. I didn't really I didn't elaborate on much on what it is, either to the players or to myself. There's not a whole real reason to write that whole history. But yeah, again, so whatever it was, they were... Like, the Elves are not happy with the fact that the Fae seem subservient to them. And, yeah. So long story short, they decide we are going to exile the mayor. And I was curious if they were actually going to kill her, because they had Franco go and drag her out to the side of town, and I had Tana the bird keeper, who the whole time was kind of agreeing with them. She was agreeing with the idea that we should be killing all the elves. Apologies. So when Opilius was here, and, you know, again, he kind of otherized the elves on the way in, and a lot of people came here kind of expecting they were just going to slaughter all these elves and take over the town. But Opilius kind of stood with what Squirrel was saying and said, you know, if these townsfolk are cowering here in this gazebo, I'm not going to start slitting throats. I'm not here to do genocide, you know. And like I said before, Opilius and the human empire have, or human kingdom, what do you want to call it, have been built on inclusion, have been built on taking over land and integrating the people there. So he believes in his heart of hearts that this will happen with the elves, that maybe it'll be harder because they've been their own empire for thousands of years. They, you know, they have this haughtiness, this racism, this xenophobia in them. But he believes in his heart of hearts that he can befriend the elves and, you know, eventually integrate them into the empire that they have. So he says all this, and Tana is furious, because Tana came here expecting, like, you know, these elves think nothing of you. They consider you nothing more than like a pig. They would slit your throat in your sleep if it benefited them. So she was furious, and there was a role playing. I did role playing with myself, which I never like to do, between Tana and Opilius, just kind of arguing about should we genocide all the elves or not. And Opilius was on the side of Squirrel and the party of goblins, like, no, we're not going to start slitting throats. So Franco grabs the mayor and starts walking towards the river, and Tana goes with him, thinking, oh man, we're going to kill this mayor once we get out of town. But Franco takes her all the way down here and cuts her loose and says, you can leave the town with nothing, go. And then he and Tana have some role play where basically he convinces her that this is for the best. We promised somebody we weren't going to kill anybody. We promised Opilius we weren't going to kill anybody. This is how we're going to do this. So, and he role played it really well, and then he rolled like a crit success on diplomacy. So Tana shut up. And they came back to town. And when they came back, Squirrel said, you know, we exiled your mayor. I promise she is still alive. And anyone that feels the same way can leave. And I had been role-playing that all the people in the gazebo, all like the regular townsfolk, were kind of cowed and subdued, and a lot of them were praying to Serenity. There was a priest there leading them in prayer. But while Squirrel was ignoring the mayor, and the mayor was shouting these racist things about the humans, and they should get out of here, and they should sleep with the animals, some of the other elves were agreeing with her, like nodding kind of passively, but showing that they agree. This is not the mayor just being the mayor. This is something that a lot of elves believe. Because elves, yeah, they're terrible people, basically, the elves. And then when they said that, when Squirrel came in and said anybody that feels the same way can leave, I rolled a D100 to see like what percent of people would agree enough to leave, and I got like a 65 or something. So I said, you know what? Of like the 120 people here, we're gonna say half of them leave. So 60 of them get up to leave. What do you do? And they let them go. So they didn't try to stop them. They didn't try to convince them. They didn't try to do anything like that. They just said, if you feel the same way, go. Take nothing with you. Go with, like, you know, they already gave all their weapons. They've already been looted. Just go. Leave. and they let 60 elves just walk out of town, and the mayor is gone now. So that was kind of weird, and that's what surprised me. And I mentioned that in a couple of the places where I posted the stream link today. Is that they surprised me because in my notes and in the stuff we had talked about in the past, I kind of thought that they would talk to this mayor, finesse this mayor, get the mayor to cow down and surrender, and that she would be like a begrudging ally. Basically, like she doesn't like the fact that this is happening, but she's willing to work with the Fae to make sure that her people stayed alive. I wanted, more than anything, I wanted her to be a protector of her people, and she would be in the town and she would do what she could to keep everybody alive. And they sent her out. They had this disagreement with her, and again, I did want to make it clear that like she's a horrible person and she does think these things of humans. This is bad, and I was trying to see what the party would do about that. If they would play the part and play like they are above the humans and kind of convince Opilius to go with this plan through some subtle like wink wink, like yeah, we're in charge here, pretend. They didn't do that. They stood up and they surrendered the town to Opilius. They handed over to Opilius. They were very in your face about it, and they both bumbled the the role playing, and they didn't roll any good checks or whatever to kind of calm her down. They didn't say the right things, and they didn't roll well enough to cower into it or to calm her down. So she freaked out. They sent her out of town. So now I am kind of at a loss because I have to figure out what do I do with the mayor now. So the plan for the next session, if you watch the other ones, is that I was going to, at the start of the session, kind of narrate. I'm going to jump ahead like a week in time. So they've occupied the town for a week. Exactly. Is she going to be a recurring villain? Is she going to come back and attack, or is she going to lead an assault on the town or something? We have to come up with something, basically. So the plan was that I would kind of just jump ahead a week, and I would narrate that they're occupying the town. Most of the people in the town they're completely cowed. No one is like openly resisting them. Opilius has confined most people to this inn or the tavern over here so they can be guarded. Basically, the exits of those buildings. So they're sleeping there. But during the day, they do let them walk around a bit. Like they let the smith do smithy things. They let the carpenter do carpentry things. I'm sure they're recruiting the alchemists to make potions and stuff like that. So the elves in the town are there. They're not prisoners, but they kind of are. And I'm just going to jump ahead a week, say this has been happening, and that, again, I kind of stress that before I get there, apologies. There are other people came in. So after all that role playing, after they exiled the mayor, other troops came in. Like I said before, everybody was kind of slowed down. So like there was a group of half orcs, there was some more halflings with some humans, and there were dwarves, and they all were in whatever reason, or for whatever reason, in whatever way, they were all delayed. So the dwarves came in first, and Auric is related to Even in his backstory. He kind of recruited Even into the army after finding him in the woods. And they all came in, and they started talking to Opilius, and the party noticed that Gunda and Wilfred over here, they both had elf ears on their necklace. So they were fighting in the woods, and I guess they started taking some gruesome trophies. So not all the dwarves, but these two, they bound by, and they're talking to Opilius, and I think Franco or Squirrel noticed that this was happening. They didn't say anything about it. They didn't object. And when Opilius saw it, they made a sense motive check or whatever it is. I think it's just perception in this one. And they saw that Opilius was not happy with that, but he wasn't outright. He didn't scold anybody. Like it looked like he found it distasteful, but didn't say anything about it. But they were bragging about it. They were walking around, and the fact like Gunda had 6 and Wilfred had 5, and they were it was a competition. Blah blah blah. And the goblins got to see that these dwarves are not great people, and they had role play with the mayor, like if you stay here, we can keep you safe. It's not safe outside the town. And sure enough, in come these dwarves wearing elf ear necklaces. And I flipped a coin, and as Gunda was bounding back to get some food, she rolled a 2 and said, okay, she kind of showed off her elf ear necklace to the elves cowering in this thing. So she's not making any friends among the elves. So the dwarves came back, they did all that, and at this point, so the session was getting kind of close to ending, and I didn't want to delay things any further than I already had. We're already behind in my mind where I wanted to be, but it is what it is. You make do. But I wanted to have more interactions like that. I wanted more of the troops. I wanted all the troops to come in, and I wanted to do more of these gruesome trophies like I talked about. So some half orcs came in, some half orcs and humans, and one of them was wearing very clearly this like I know, right? Elf ear necklaces are last year's. Well, I mean, they're kind of new to them. They haven't really seen many elves before, but yeah, I agree. It's a little gauche. But so some half-orcs came in, and one of them was wearing like a wooden mask with these branches that look like antlers. And I described it that, no one really knew what it was, but it was very clearly like some wood elf mask. And it's going to matter later because I think that the party's going to fight some wood elves and they're going to get one of these masks. But it has this cool thing. It's like a hunting mask or something that like basically has a little alchemical pouch in the nose. And if you pop it, you gain scent for a limited amount of time or something like that. So one of the half-orcs found one of these, and he walked up wearing it, which it kind of offended some of the elves who saw him doing this already. And then he walked around like, oh, boogie, 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 like just, being an asshole with it. And in addition to that, there was another half-orc, a female, who had 2 elf scalps that she had cut off with their big, long, like, flowing hair, and she kind of put them on her shoulders as, like, pauldrons, like decorative pauldrons. So she walks into town with, like, this nice golden blonde hair on one and this jet black raven hair on the other, and it's kind of like one's going over her chest and one's over her shoulder, and she just walks into town with this elf hair draped off of her, and like, again, monstrous, like, and she walks past the elves as if they're nothing and talks to Opilius, and the goblins get to see, oh, maybe we are maybe we are the darkness that the mayor said that there was this darkness here, and we were talking that we were coming to cure the darkness, but maybe we're in trouble. And the fisherman 2 sessions ago, the one that talked him into not murdering people, he asked them several times. He said, darkness here, darkness are you? Darkness with you? Evil are you? And all these weird, like, Yoda-like questions. Stressing the fact that the people they are with are not good people. And then they watch this parade of stuff. And I felt like it was a little rushed. I did have to, like, kind of just cram it in. And there was some role-playing with the dwarves. There was very minimal role-playing with the half-orcs. People didn't seem interested in talking with them. And then I had my favorite one was a bunch of humans came in, and among them was a halfling named Ingar. And the halfling walked over to Joven and Gisela while all the humans went to talk to Opilius. And he offered Joven, Gisela, and Franco, who happened to be there, he offered them an olive. He took out a sack, and he had a sack of olives. And Joven was basically shocked, and he's in shock. He just barely got brought back to life. Franco declined, and Gisela took one and popped one in her mouth, and then realized to her horror that they were not olives, that he had a bag full of elf eyes. So in Pathfinder, the eyes of elves, like, basically are all iris, like there's no whites of their eyes. So he had this bag full of these green he had a bag full of these green spheres, which were actually eyes he had plucked out, and he was playing just a typical halfling joke, a little practical joke on his friends here. And Gisela was talking to him about, like, what a horrible day they had had, that 2 of them had died, that Joven was unconscious, she dragged him through the woods while the wood elves were chasing them, and he's just plays this horrible joke. And it's this horrible, disgusting, like, these people are mutilating elf bodies in the woods. And I just wanted to stress over and over again that, like, you are doing bad things here. Like, maybe not the goblins, and I liked that we're contrasting that, because the goblins were also given a lot of opportunities to be bad. They saw a homestead, like a farm homestead, and they decided not to go bother them because the fishermen told them not to go murdering people. So they're not just going to go roving through a farm homestead for no reason if it's not part of their objective. So they decided not to do that. They killed very few people during their attack on the town, and this is now directly contrasted to this whole story of all these other people who are coming in. And they heard from Ingar, and they heard from some of the humans that are with him that they reeked of smoke. And then they had seen this black smoke rising up an hour ago or so. And basically they did what the party didn't. They came across a homestead and they decided to raid the homestead. And when the farmers put up a fight or the farmers resisted them in any way, they slaughtered everybody there and they burned down the farm. So that's what the smoke was that they saw 2 sessions ago. That's what they smelled like, the smoke. And that's where the guy got all his eyes. They just, this farm family, they just plucked all the eyes out of him and pretended they were olives for a practical joke. So all of this horrible stuff is happening, and the party is realizing, like, hey, we're not with good people. And they're the goblins. They're the monsters, right? They're the ones with, like, daggers for teeth. And exactly. It's a terrible conquering strategy. It's not going to go well for them. And that's the point. So they did all these horrible things, and Opilius is going to be occupying the town. And like I said before, we're going to kind of jump ahead a week. The current plan, which we have to rework now because the mayor is threw a little curveball with the mayor. The current plan was that I would just jump ahead a week and I would narrate that the town occupation was going okay, in that the town itself, everybody was well under control and docile and cowed into not doing anything. But in the woods, the wood elves are basically at war with the occupiers. There are guerrillas. And I need to clarify, someone on one of my YouTube VODs made sure he was confused. I thought he was talking about animals the whole time. No, guerrillas, like guerrilla warfare people. Elves using guerrilla warfare tactics in the woods are basically at war with the occupiers. So every batch of people that came in, like I told you, like the dwarves and the elves, the halflings and everybody else, they all came in and they all said the same sort of thing, that they fought these wood elves and they were very good fighters. A lot of them, they were in the trees, or they were able to move through the woods quickly and stealthily, and they were very good with their bows. And the same sort of tactics and strategies kept coming up over and over again that stressed these wood elves were worse than the people the party had encountered. So the armies, they started at this port city, and they basically followed a road up to a guard tower, killed the watchtower, then followed the road back to over here. So they bumped into was basically, town elves, the elves working the dock hand elves, town elves. They bumped into a hermit and a hunter. They didn't really encounter the wood elves that everybody else is talking about. They never went through like deep patches of woods. And everybody else, I kind of said on the way in before they got to the port, Opilius dropped off, little groups of 5 to 8 people every couple miles down the shore, and said, then sweep through the woods like this. We'll meet around town. I want you guys to map the woods. I want you to scout out if there's any wood elves out there. I want to make sure we know where they are. So they did this, and everybody who encountered the wood elves reports that they are serious business. Yes, the goblins do need to come back and give some sort of HR training to the rest of the army to teach them how to play nice, how they occupy a town properly. So yeah, so all this happened, and the wood elves are serious business. And the plan for next session was to jump ahead a week, narrate that the occupation was going well, but the fact that the wood elves are launching small attacks into the town, but in general, not coming too far into town. But when people leave, like Opilius starts sending out scout missions and stuff like that to go find the wood elves, find out what's going on, they come back like basically injured or killed each time. And specifically, I'm going to narrate then, I have to write some stuff up for this. I don't actually have it written yet. But I need to, the people that did horrible things to the elves will have those horrors visited upon them. So like the half orc that scalped 2 elves, they'll find her outside of town scalped. And the guy that plucked out the eyeballs at halfling will have his eyeballs removed. And, basically these wood elves know exactly what happened, and they are taking revenge on these people. But also, they're killing everybody. They're not just killing the people who were bad, but they're making a point of like showing that like, we will not stand for this. You're monsters. We can be monsters too. And the wood elves are this horrible thing. So I wanted to say that like a week has passed, maybe more. I think a week is enough time. But long story short, they've lost some men. So they started with 60. They lost some in the invasion. Say they're down to like 55 or 50. And then like over the course of that week, they lose like another 10 people. And a bunch of them were those horrible people, but just other random people. I don't want to kill anybody they really care about yet. Like I don't want to kill Auric. I don't want to kill Tana or Orin. But basically, some other people that they met are going to die. Just in this narration. Just again, a week has passed. A bunch of people have died on patrols, or like people snuck into town and scalped that orc, whatever. Blah, 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 blah. So I want to stress that this is happening, and that Opilius is kind of losing his shit about it. So, like, Opilius, his objective now is to basically maintain this town, hold this town, occupy this town, until the king sends reinforcements. So they were the strike team, they broke the town, they took the port, and then after that, they're going to send guards and colonists, basically, to occupy the town forever. Like, the goal is to take over this port city and use it as a human port. And, whatever they do with the elves, either they integrate them or whatever happens later. But Opilius is of the opinion that they can integrate the elves. So his job is to hold this until people come by, and that might be a couple more weeks. Basically, they have ravens that they can communicate with, and I guess they could also use magic if I wanted to. But long story short, Opilius has to occupy this town for weeks, and after just 1 week, he's lost like another 10 people or something like that, and he knows that he can't keep this up. If he loses people at this rate, eventually the elves are going to be powerful enough to take back the town. But again, the elves in the town are all completely. Yes, the goblins should visit the wood elves, but we'll get to that because I'll show you what's going to happen. But yeah, so again, the people in the town are completely complacent and cowed into being good. So it's like, you know, they shouldn't start killing elves. And I also want to make sure that, you know, shouldn't start killing, you know, townsfolk elves. I mean, I want to stress over and over again, like there's a priest of Serenre. He's gonna take the point of where the mayor was supposed to be like the mayor was going to basically stress to the party, hey, you know, we don't speak for the wood elves. You know, we're not really associated with them. They're not of our town. They're from the woods. Like, I promise that no one in this town is standing against you, blah, blah, blah. The idea was the mayor would stress truthfully and honestly that, you know, we surrender to you. We, with all our hearts, we surrender to you. We don't speak for the wood elves. We can't stop them. And that they would go out and deal with the wood elves. So I think the Priest of Serenre is going to take over that sort of role, stressing the people that, you know, like, hey, yeah, well, I don't think we don't really have a town deputy. They killed the champion, and they had a couple of guards. A bunch of the guards left with the mayor. But I think I'll just use the priest because I role played everybody's praying a lot when the siege was happening. So I'll just say that the Priest of Serenre can kind of goad people into it. And again, he's leading them through prayer, and he wants them to get through this, blah blah blah. So yeah, so we can make that work. And I want to stress to the party over and over again, and to Opilius, like, hey, we're not doing this. We're not corroborating. We're not attacking you. And hopefully the party sees that as sincere. Maybe there's some struggle. Maybe there's some role playing, but, you know, it's the truth. So Opilius is, again, losing his shit because, you know, people are dying. And, like, whenever he sends out another party to go find the sort, like, where are these guerrillas located? Or is there a leader? They come back injured or with dead. So it's getting worse and worse, and he's getting more and more demanding of people. He needs this fixed. This can't just keep going on. We can't just stay here. They're eventually gonna kill us. So he's ordering more and more patrols out into the world. And again, this was the current plan. And what I was going to have was the party was going to bump into a bunch of elf guerrillas. So I had this map, and I went over this map a couple times. I think like 2 prep sessions ago, or maybe I don't remember the last one or 2 of them ago. We went over this with Bijo, and we added some cool tunnels and stuff like that. So like if I come over here to this, you can see if you move this thing, there's like a tunnel art, and you can move up to here. So basically, like, you know, there's tunnels under bushes, and it was going to be really cool where the party's going to come in from over here, and there's going to be like an elf guerrilla. And I think this elf gorilla is wearing one of those wooden masks we talked about. He's a cool little gorilla. So yeah, there's an elf gorilla there, and I want to make him invisible again because I don't want people to see him when I come on. There's an elf gorilla down here. I think I have a 3rd elf gorilla in case things are going too easily. I can throw another elf gorilla into the fight. And I have down here another elf chemist. It's the same stats as the one in town, but basically this one we'll actually fight them if we need to. And he has a bunch of cool bombs and some potions. And the guerrillas have their short bows and their cool Rapier Mein Gauche combo, where they can do cool stuff like they can do quick draw, they can do the skewer attack, where basically you get a bonus to hit and they do some bleed damage. So yeah, there's some cool stuff that can go on there. But yeah, so the idea is that they're going to encounter these wood elves. And I wasn't planning on being diplomatic. Basically, I wanted to stress over and over again that these wood elf guerrillas are killing your allies. They are dying left, right. And sure, some of the horrible people probably deserved it. The people that scalped the elves and the people that took out the eyes, they probably deserved it. But also some regular soldiers who didn't do bad things also are dead because the wood elves are, you know, just resisting these people occupying their town and their woods. So I want to stress this over and over again. I want Opilius again to start acting more and more stressed out about it and say, like, you need to bring me the head of the guerrilla leader. Like, there's got to be someone in charge of this, and we need them done. So they were going to have this fight. I'm not going to go over the whole fight, but basically it's set up so that there are like 2 or there's 3 level 2 things. And again, I have an extra one in case it's going too easily. So the whole thing, you know, this gorilla is going to fight over here. This gorilla was going to pop out and then go into look like he's hiding back here, but actually pop out over there. So, you know, move through the tunnels, and the party would have to figure out that there are tunnels and blah, blah, blah. So that was all going on, and the chemist would be there throwing bombs. And, you know, the bombs are cool. I like how the Pathfinder did bombs and alchemists. How you make a bunch of bombs every day, basically, for free. And they expire at the end of the day, so you can't keep them. They're basically spell slots, but bombs. And it's really cool because there's lots of cool stuff you can do. Like fire does a bunch of damage up front and has a decent, you know, damage every turn unless you put it out. Bottled Lightning, if you fail your save, it makes you flat-footed, which is great if you're fighting with your allies. You give them a +1 to hit, essentially. And, sneak attack and stuff goes off. Acid Flasks have, I think, more upfront damage or longer... let me see. 1d6 persistent. Yeah, so I think the fire does more up front. Yeah, and then 1 persistent, and the acid does less up front, but more persistent. So yeah, so you get like a good mix of options and stuff. You get to have a lot of fun with that. So again, this gorilla is going to come up over here, have the party try to charge him. He's on a raised thing behind a log for cover. Then this gorilla over here is fighting and popping into the thing. And then the alchemist starts lobbing bombs. So this would be, again, I want this to be a fairly serious fight. I want this to be, I think it is a severe level encounter. And I have to see how many people are going to come next week. I think right now I have 3 RSVPs. Franco the Swashbuckler is coming. Puck the Oracle is coming. And Squirrel the Ranger is coming. Even the Barbarian is, I think he's officially a no, because he's going to have like a 5-day-old baby. So I think he's out for a while. And I'm trying to convince G Payne to join. And this guy, Larry, who hasn't played yet, he has a champion he made, but I think he works Saturdays now. So we need to figure it out. I need to get some more people into my Westmarches style campaign where people come in and out. But right now we only have 3. So if there are 3 people coming, I might have to tune this down a bit. But I want it to be severe and scary. I want it to be like the goblins encounter one of these patrols that people have talked about, that Opilius is freaking out about, that these guys are going around killing and injuring their allies, and that this is serious. So they're going to have this fight. They're going to win this fight. They're going to take someone alive. If but even if they're going to be told to look for the guerrilla leader, to find the guerrilla leader, and hopefully they take one alive. But even if they're just murdering people, I'm going to have one survive long enough to be talked to. And long story short, I'm hoping they have a short role-playing session where they kind of talk to this person and get the information out of them. They're going to find it. They're going to give it up and say that the guerrilla leader is operating out of these elven ruins in the woods, and describe vaguely where it is. And then it's up to the party to go get him. And I guess they could always go back to Opilius and tell him about it. But long story short, it's up to them to go get them. And I have a forest chase scene. So they're going to do all this. They're going to have the fight, do role-playing. I don't know if they're going to go back to Opilius or not. It's up to them. And they come back, and we have this forest chase scene. And I have, like, some forest chase music. And I realized I should have been playing music this whole time we were talking. But hey, what are you going to do? Wrong one. Yeah, woodland chased. So, yeah. So this was a skill encounter we were talking about. And again, I've already gone over this, I think, once or twice in my Session Prep thing. So I'm not going to go too much into it. But the way this is going to be is essentially at each one of these phases, and do I have the doc up? I do, right? The forest chase. At each one of these stages, there's basically going to be a check you can make, and there's going to be 2 types you can do. Like for the first one, there's going to be a pit trap, and they can make athletics or perception to deal with the challenge. And there are going to be handouts for this. So if I go over here to Elven Assaults, Forest Chase, it's going to be like a pit trap. It's like they're going to come to this. I'm going to show everybody the picture. I'm going to say, okay, you need to make saves. And I'm going to use this cool thing over here to kind of call for things. I'm going to say, you can choose to use perception, or you can choose to use, what is it, acrobatics? Oh, interesting. This is, it didn't make that noise before. I updated my mods today. Now it makes a noise when I request checks. Not sure if I like that or not. I'll have to look into that. In any event, so then the people can choose. So they can say like, oh, I'm better at perception. So Even makes a perception check. Franco's better at acrobatics. And I'll basically tell them they have to choose which of these 2 they want to do. And, Puck will say, oh, I'm good at perception. Squirrel's good at perception. So long story short, what I have is, they're pretty easily. It's usually 13 or 15 or lower or higher, things like that. But there's always one that's slightly easier than the other ones. And, basically they need to make their way through it. So the way I've set it up is that if you get a crit success, the party token moves 2 ahead. If you get a success, you move 1 ahead. If you fail, you stay in place. And if you crit fail, you go back 1. So essentially, right now, looking at this, what did I have? So it is a 13 athletics or a 15 perception. That is a failure, and a crit success. So they would move up 2. And then acrobatics, Franco got, so they move up 1. And then the elves would make their checks too. I'm not going to actually roll for them. But, the idea is that the elves are going to be about as good, if not better, than the party, depending on how poorly the party rolls. And essentially, this guerrilla leader, they're going to find him. They're going to come to these ruins. They're going to find him, and he doesn't want to fight. He's running away, and they have to chase him through this. Like, he's running through the woods. He runs through these pit traps, and then there are all these other ones too. You can see like there's a tangled forest, a rushing river, steep hills they have to climb, finding a bear's den, and then the bear is nearby with the cubs, which is horrifying, and then deep mud. So I have handouts for all this. So like, there's the tangled forest, there's the rushing river. There's the steep hills, blah, blah, blah. So each one, I'm going to show them a piece of art. I'm going to give them a check to make. And then depending how badly they move through things, the elves are going to probably be getting away. And I haven't figured out, I think what I've decided on is that if the party overtakes them, like matches the elves, they're going to get a free ranged attack, essentially. That the elves, like, they're not stopping to fight. No matter how well they do, they're never going to get the elves to stop and fight. The elves are running away, so they're going to get a free shot. And then when the fight does happen later on, which we'll get to, the elves will start damage. It's just the guerrilla leader, and he's escaping. So they're going to make all their checks, and if they perform really poorly, they might have to make the same check twice. Like, if they don't get to this 2, if they only move up 1, for example, then they still have to get through all the pit traps. They're still moving through the area that has pit traps in it. So they need to make the same checks over and over again. And eventually, the elf is going to get to 6, and he's going to be gone, and the party will be some degree behind them or keeping pace with them, whatever it is. But yeah, this is basically a skill challenge, and I'm hoping this goes pretty fast. Again, we only play 3-hour sessions, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time doing this. I mean, I want it to be fun and engaging. And this chase music isn't as intense as I wanted it to be, so maybe I'll look for some more music later. But again, I want this to be fun and engaging, and I want them to kind of be excited about this, and then I want them to be like, we need to get him. Like, again, I want it to be tense and this is the guy that's leading the guerrillas. This is very clearly what we're looking for. We need to get this guy, and he's just nimbly escaping. He's doing the wood elf thing where he's moving through the forest. He knows where the pit traps are. He knows how to get around the bear's den, so he's very easily making his way through this, and they're struggling with it. I also have Opilius's troops here, so if they decide to go back to town and get the troops, which I think I might stress during the encounter with the elves when they were talking to Forest Canopy and questioning, I might stress that like the elf guerrilla leader won't be there for long. So if they decide to go back to town, they might be at a disadvantage. But we'll see. So they might go back. If they do, we'll have Opilius's troops come in, but I'm going to have them be even worse in the woods than the goblins are. So they're failing their checks, or they have a penalty to their speed because of they have bigger armor or something. So what if they all crit? Then yeah, that's a great question. If they all make crit successes, and again, you got how many people shows up also matters, because if you have more people rolling, the chance of you moving further is always good, is better. So yeah, I don't really have a good answer for that. If they all crit, if everybody crit succeeds, and there were, just say there's 4 of them there, they could move 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, part of me thinks I should cap it. I think I should cap it to like at most 4. That's a good question though. I should basically, I mean, I don't want to take it away from them. If they all crit, they should do really, really well, and that would suck because again, they'd get to like 8, and like if the elves only got to 4, maybe they would stop because they're trying to chase the elf. They're not trying to get ahead of the elf. So basically, I think maybe what I would do is they would catch up to the elf, and then maybe for each one further, they would get a free range attack. So that might be it. That's how you do it. So not only do you have to keep up with the elf, you have to beat him. So like, the elf's going to start 1 ahead, and he's going to get to there. And then if you crit, you go 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's say you had 2 extra from your crits. You would get 2 range attacks on the elf guerrilla. Because you're not looking to overshoot him. You're not looking to finish the race before him. You're looking to kind of get a benefit from doing that. And that, I think, could work out. It would be kind of horrifying if Squirrel crit. Because he only has 45 hit points. Only. And the party is leveling up to level 2. I'm not sure if they've done that yet. I don't think this is level 2. Yeah, he hasn't leveled up yet. So the party has done it yet, but they did hit level 2 at the end of the last session. So anyway, they're gonna do that. I like that idea now, where if they surpass the guerrilla leader, they get free shots on him. And then eventually they get to the end. Hopefully they haven't murdered him too badly. But yeah, the idea is they get to the end, and then they arrive at this water temple, and they watch the elf guerrilla run in, or if they were far enough behind, they don't, but they find his footprints. Basically, they make a survival check, and they can see that he walks through this muddy, beachy area and ran into this temple. And again, I've been over this in a couple of other prep sessions, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But the long story short here is that he is asking for sanctuary in this temple of Gozreh. And the elves of this temple are going to give it to him. So when the party gets here, again, they've been told they need to get the head of this guy. This is the guerrilla leader. Like this is what they do to break the resistance. They were told to do all this, and they come here and they find the doors are barred, and the people inside are telling them to go away. And if they bother to talk to them, they're going to say, there's two acolytes here in the front. They're basically going to tell them go away. He's requested sanctuary, blah blah blah, and you're not allowed here. You're not wanted here. And again, I was talking to Bijo. I'm pretty sure they're going to break down the doors, or they're going to climb through a window, or like I'm going to explain to them that if they know anything about Gozreh, which I'm not sure they do, so religion checks are terrible, they would know that either the sky or the sea is usually open in a Gozreh temple. So if they swim around or if they climb on the ceiling or something, they could find their way in. Long story short, I think they're going to break in. And when they do that, there's going to be an elf priestess here, and there's a Triton, and the elf guerrilla leader will be up there, probably injured if they got shots off on him. And the priestess is going to be just livid that these fae or whatever, these goblins, whatever they are desecrating the temple, that they would disavow sanctuary this way, blah blah blah. And she's going to be super pissed off about it, and not even looking to talk that much, basically looking to cleanse the filth from this temple. So she's here, the Triton's here. The Triton has a horn that can summon this octopus I want to have come in. And I'm going to roleplay that, the elf priestess has a lot of wind and water powers. She's got like gust of wind and tidal surge and stuff like that. And basically her gimmick is that she's going to try to be pushing people into the water, so they have trouble moving around, and so the Triton can fight them easier, and so the octopus can fight them easier. And the ranger's up here taking pot shots. In order to get to him, you have to come to this door and run up these stairs, or you can come up here and kind of deal with him across the way. But again, he's over here in this balcony. So it's again, this should be another hard fight, and the idea is that they're going to come into this temple. They're going to disavow sanctuary. They're going to probably kill an elf priestess of Gozreh and super piss off Gozreh. And that's the gimmick for chapter 2 of my campaign, which I talked about a couple times, which is basically it's going to be the Odyssey. So all of the elven story, all of the lore, all of the human elf fighting was basically just a reason to get them to this point where they piss off Gozreh, just like Odysseus pisses off Neptune. What if they? That's a good question. If they just incapacitate her, it's true. They could do that, and maybe they take everybody alive. They could keep the Triton. They could keep the elf priestess. It's true. They could if they're just coming for the thing. In my mind, I think they're going to kill her. I mean, it's possible. We'll find out, I guess. I don't really have a plan for that. I guess Gozreh could still be pissed off that they violated sanctuary. They desecrated a temple. But if they left him alive, it's a bit less of a reason to be pissed off. But it's a great question. We'll see. Yeah. I really want the priestess to come off as super mean and super dismissive of the people, of the goblins coming in here. And just furious, basically. And I want her to come hard with her attacks. So like she's going to be pushing people into the water. She's going to be hurting people with her magic. I think she's got... she's mostly moving around. She's got Sanctuary. She's got Chill Touch and stuff like that. So she doesn't actually have that many... Like, she's not a blasty type of caster. But Chill Touch isn't nothing, right? What's Chill Touch? Where you at? Boom. Touch. Fortitude save. And 1d4 plus your spellcasting modifier. Yeah, so 1d4, that's not nothing, right? It's when you match the damage button. Oh yeah, and she's like a 3rd level caster or whatever, right? She's serious business. Yeah, so 2d4 plus 1 is not nothing. I don't know. If they want to keep working with the army, so they're going to the Odyssey, I'm forcing them to the Odyssey. That's the answer. If they like this campaign, that's too bad. I didn't want to run this campaign. I think I was talking to Bijo, another guy who's been watching a bunch of my streams, in one of my other prep sessions. I was saying that I wanted to run the Odyssey campaign. So like this whole thing that started was I started because I knew Nas was having a baby. I knew the guy was playing even. His wife was pregnant, and I knew that coming up in April he was going to have a baby. So my other campaign, which again is Hell's Vengeance in 1st edition, we just finished chapter 4. We were going to start chapter 5, but I kind of knew in my head that Nas was going to need some time because he got a baby. That happens. So I started up this other campaign with the idea that it would be like, show up when you want to, Westmarches style, whatever you want to call it. And in my mind, it was going to be, it's the Odyssey meets the Westmarches. So, like, we play every other week. Whoever can show up. And the people who come decide what they want to do. And that's kind of how the Westmarches theme works. If you watch, Matt Koval has a good video on it. And that's kind of where I was going with it, is basically they'd show up, and there'd be a bunch of islands they've heard about. and they'd say like, oh, we want to go hang out, we want to go check out the island of the Cyclops we heard about, or we heard there were dragon turtles over here, or we heard that this was happening, or there were undead on this island, and we want to go there. And as they explore more of the archipelago, they figure out more islands, more things to do. And basically, they kind of just, bumble their way through it, decide where they want to go, and do that. So that's kind of how I wanted to run it. I wanted to run this Odyssey campaign, and I figured out that I didn't want to just throw them into it. I could have made session 1, I narrate the whole thing, you are knocked into the Odyssey. And I didn't want to do that so much, because I guess I could have, but in my head, I wanted them to feel responsible. I wanted them to have the moments where they piss off Gozreh, where they do the thing. There's some sort of, I want them invested in the decision. So again, I want them to come here. I want them to break into a church. I want them to kill a priest. And it's possible they don't. It's possible they don't kill the priestess. They don't kill the Triton. I think they probably will. They don't think too much about doing things non-lethally, but they might start. I think even, of all people, even the barbarian once talked them into acting non-lethally to take a prisoner at the docks. So it's possible. But again, the whole idea here is that they do something, and again, maybe just violating sanctuaries enough. Maybe just coming in here against the wishes of the priests is enough. And again, these acolytes are going to be holding the door down. So if they burst through the door, they might kill these acolytes, and they only have 6 hit points. It's going to be like a joke to them to just slaughter them if they don't acting non-lethally. So the gimmick here is that hopefully they have this fight, and they go ahead and they are officially in the Odyssey after that. So this was the whole plan. Let's get back to what we were talking. So the plan was, that was me the next session. I was going to have this narration where like, hey, you're occupying this town and these wood elves are serious business. They keep killing people. I describe some of the scenes. I describe how the people who did the scalping got scalped, blah, blah, blah. And kind of impress upon them that Opilius is pissed off. You've lost like 10 to 20% of your invading force. And something needs to be done. We need to get this leader. We need to figure it out. And then the goblins go on a patrol. They come into contact with the wood elves. They take one alive, either by their own volition or I just make one survive. They question them. They have this chase. They figure out where the guerrilla leader is. They have a chase scene, leads them back here, and I hope that they decide that, first off, I don't know. Again, they're not really religious. They don't know a whole lot about religion. They see something very visibly a temple, and they're told at the door, like, hey, no, you're not allowed in here. He has requested sanctuary, blah, blah, blah. And I'm hoping they bite. I'm hoping they bite, and they break down the door, they have a fight, and kill these people. And then that's the whole next session. I think I can do all that in 3 hours. But again, they'll surprise me. They'll decide to role play for an hour with the guy they captured or something like that. And then I might have to speed things up. But the idea is they do all this next session, and then the session after that is the Gozreh, gets them basically. They after this fight is done, they've taken the guerrilla leader, killed him, whatever they do. The guerrillas are basically disbanded. So like whatever, he was the linchpin holding it all together, and there are still wood elves in the woods, but no one is raiding the town anymore, and the occupation goes off without a hitch. So after this is done, we can fast forward again another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is. And then the troops that we talked about earlier come from the main human empire. So they send another larger boat. It has a bunch of soldiers on it, has a bunch of colonists on it who are going to come live here, either among the elves or replacing the elves, whatever ends up happening. But the idea is that they come and Opilius is going out. So now that the humans have had a couple of weeks, I think it's been over a month and a half, they've kind of raised more of an army. They built some more boats. They are ready to attack larger elven ports. And Opilius and his troops are basically going to kind of leapfrog over to the next elven port and meet up with a big boat full of reinforcements. But that doesn't happen, obviously, because they pissed off Gozreh, god of the sea, and Gozreh goes, plink. Long story short, there's a whole scene we're going to come up with a big storm, a lot of cool stuff we're going to talk about, like Gozreh from the sky coming down to Gozreh from the sea, and bam, blow them off, full west towards this magical storm that I described in the lore a while ago. That no one really goes past. Like there's sea monsters and stuff around there, so no one goes there, and no one ever visits, comes back. Blah, 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 blah. They end up in this magic realm of the Odyssey, where there are sirens and all kinds of weird stuff. So that's the gimmick. That's where we're going. But now, like I said at the beginning of the stream, we have a little wrinkle in that the mayor was kicked out of town. So if I go back to Thaith, like I was saying, when they were talking to the people in the gazebo and the humans came back, and the goblins started acting deferential to their commander, and basically said out loud to the elves, like, this is how this is going to happen. He's our commander. He's in charge now. Like, you surrendered to us, but we defer to him. We're handing control of your town to him. The mayor would not stand for that. The mayor was like, we're not going to let these humans, these mud people, occupy our town. Like, get them out of here right now. And Squirrel took a stand and basically was like, no, this is how it's going, and if you don't like it, you can get out. And she chose to get out. And they chose to let her out. They did not kill her. They didn't like just take her to the side and throw her in the river. Even though they kind of joked about it. They said, take her to the river and... but they let her go. And then they came back and Squirrel said, anybody who agrees with her can leave. And like almost half the town left. Like 60 other elves left. So now there is a bunch of racist elves left town who don't think the humans deserve to be occupying the town. Including the mayor, a person of some import and or skill, are now gone. So I'm struggling in my head to take everything I just talked about, that I was hoping to cram it into one session, and I think is already tight as it is, all those things we just talked about, and kind of add the mayor into this mix now. I don't know how to do that, because in my head, I'm struggling, because I don't want to add another session. Like I said, I want all that stuff to happen next. They get swept up by Gozreh and wind up on one of the islands. You want the mayor to come back on an island later? Maybe. That seems a bit much, though. I mean, that would be funny. That would be funny for them to just appear in the Odyssey. They're over, like, the 4 sessions into the Odyssey. They're fighting giants. They're fighting sirens. And also the mayor's there. That's a bit much. But so the thing here is that I really want their decision to matter. She's really pissed off that she's on an island over there. So again, they push the mayor out of town. They push these people out of town, and in their minds, they're feeling good about it. So like, it's less people we got to watch. We had like 150 people in the town or whatever it was, and now like, a third of them are gone. So we're gonna have an easier time. But there's only like 50 of them versus 150 elves, so it was gonna be hard. If they decided to get angry, they would get angry and it'd be bad. But now half of them are gone, so they're happy about that. But what I want their decision to matter, and I want it to be an interesting. I don't want the mayor to just disappear. I don't want the mayor to go away. I don't want the 60 people that they sent out to just go away. I don't know what to do with them. So, again, I'm struggling because I have the next session planned, in quotes, right? We have, all those encounters we just talked about. And I can't just inject the mayor into one. It makes no sense for the mayor to be here in the forest canopy. It makes a little sense for the mayor to be found at the ruins, like when you start the forest chase, like if they're at these elven ruins, and I have a handout to make that even prettier. Like they get to these elven ruins, it makes a little bit of sense for the mayor and the displaced people to be here at these elven ruins, but I don't really want to, like, what would be the point of them being there is the question. So if they come here and there's a guerrilla leader who is living amongst the displaced elves and the mayor, and then the guerrilla leader runs off, what do they? Are the party going to stay and talk to the mayor? Is the mayor going to fight back? What is the mayor's goal? So again, I in my mind, like the mayor is completely off the track of where I wanted her to be. They're off the railroad. I'm trying to railroad them into this Gozreh thing, and they're a little bit off where I want them to be. But I like it. I like that they do that, and I want to reward them by changing the story to kind of fit what they've done. I think that's the whole point of playing it as a GM. Is you have to take the players are part of the story. You can't just say this is the story, go play it. They did this thing, and now it has to matter. It needs to reflect in the story. It can't just be that you sent the mayor away and the mayor's gone now. Goodbye, and do the story like I wanted it. So if I put the mayor here, if I put a bunch of elves living in these ruins, and then they go and they can question them a little bit, they can talk, and then they see that one of the elves runs off and they have to chase him, maybe that's enough. But what would the mayor say or do? Because obviously, if she's here, if she's with the guerrilla leader, obviously she's working with them or helping them in some way or something like that. So I don't know what the players would do. I don't know what the elves and the mayor would do. Again, like, would they start a fight? Like, and what does that fight accomplish? Other than kind of making the player's story more real, what does that actually accomplish in terms of the story we're telling and the session we're having? Like, because if you throw another fight here, you're basically not going to do the temple, is what it is. Like, so if the mayor is involved and we do everything else we talked about, if we have that, guerrilla fight, and they have the forest chase, and they have another encounter, that's basically 3 hours guaranteed. I already think it's tight with the temple as it is. So I think if you had another encounter, even just a social encounter, I think you'd lose the temple. And the more I'm talking about it, the more I think I can't avoid it. I really wanted to just finish the temple next session so that I could move on to the Odyssey, where I really want to be. But I might be stuck playing Elves another 2 weeks because we play a 3-hour session every 2 weeks. So it's like I was hoping to have this session done, and then a month from now we would play the actual Odyssey. But now we're gonna add another 2-week delay. What do you think, Godoffer? Any ideas of what you would do with the mayor in the situation? Anything interesting or useful she could do that wouldn't be like a full-fledged fight or wouldn't take that long? Part of me thinks if she's here and she's talking to the people and then they see an elf run, you got nothing. Ah! Do you run games or do you play games, Godoffer? Are you a GM or are you a player? Or both? Mostly play? Mostly that, but how many games are you playing? Multiple games now? I was talking to Bijo and he said he's running 2 games and playing in 2. It just seems insane to me. I don't know how you find the time. But yeah. So yeah, I think you're awful at, well, why are you awful at it? Being a GM is great. I encourage lots of people to be GM. I kind of just got forced into it because no one else wanted to, but it's pretty cool. Are you bad at something specific? Do you think you're bad at something specific, or is it just you didn't like? Is it a lot of work? That's kind of my problem with it. Yeah, it sucks. I mean, I'm doing a live streamer prep and saying it sucks, but it's a lot, and it's a lot of thinking. But it can be fun. Like I said, I like working. You can't prep. You don't like doing it, or you just can't do it. You don't have time to do it. You can't force yourself to do it. What happens? You don't like to, yeah. It's hard to force yourself to do something you don't like to do. So I mean, it is what it is, and GMing is not for everybody. But I encourage people to try at least because it's very different. Yeah, yeah. You're starting to quit after 5 minutes. Yeah, I've been there, and I've definitely had like times where I just don't want to do it. And I've had to push back sessions because I just did not want to get it done. That's why I try to get ahead of things. Like that's why we're talking about all the stuff that I had prepped and I'm ready. Like weeks in advance because I basically had the story I wanted to play, blah 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 blah, and now I have to kind of change things because things have changed. Now there's a mayor and 60 elves just out in the world, so I have to figure out how to make it work. And again, it's I've definitely had times where I've canceled sessions and my other thing where I just didn't want to sit down and set up the session. But if you get a little ahead of it, you can go ahead and kind of get away with that. You can say like I'm not in the mood to prep, but at least I have most of next session thing done. And you can also wing some stuff. I think some people are better. I'm not that really good at improv or whatever you want to call it, but you can kind of just go with it for a while. I mean, obviously you have to have like some fights or some vague ideas of people who are going to fight and stuff like that. Especially in social scenes, it's better to just riff off what players are doing anyway. Like I usually have a bunch of bullet points of how a person feels, what they think, what their primary goals are, what they want out of an interaction. Like when I had the mayor talking, and I just kind of after that you just kind of riff, you just go back and forth, and you let the players kind of drive the conversation, and you start just reacting and role playing as the person, thinking in all your head like, who am I? What do I want? What am I going to say to this person? But yeah, again, you can't force yourself to prep. It is what it is. And it's very different. I miss being a player sometimes. I haven't played in a game in a long time with Pathfinder. It's different to be on the team working against challenges than it is to be like running the show from behind the scenes. And it's interesting and fun. Both have their differences, and I like being a GM a lot. I like being able to create a lot of different types of characters and play them. I like to try basically anything I had as like a character idea. I can make an NPC and throw it at them. So there's always that. Yeah, I had a lot of good fun with that when I was playing in the Hell's Vengeance game I was running. I basically threw together an entire party of people who were one of the characters is playing like essentially Hamlet, like his uncle took over his birthright, and I had it set up that all of his cousins were a party, and we're trying to kill him because, you know, obviously he was trying to get his inheritance back. So I got to make all of, like, you know, a life oracle, and I made all, like, basically all these characters I wanted to play, and I put them in the party, and it was pretty fun. And I got to do all that. But again, it's very different being on this side of the table. I like it, but it's definitely different. So anyway, I got to figure out where I'm going to put the mayor. And I think if I can't come up with anything better, my current idea is that she and a bunch of the people came to these elven ruins, and that the elf guerrilla is here. So maybe the elf guerrilla isn't based out of here. Maybe the elf guerrilla is visiting the mayor here. That's an idea. So when the party has the encounter with the guerrillas in the forest canopy, they take one alive. They intimidate or torture or whatever they do to get some information out of them. And he gives it up that there are these elven ruins here, that a bunch of the townsfolk had retreated there, and that the guerrilla leader is set to meet the mayor there at some point. And basically, that some point would be soon enough that the party couldn't set an ambush. And I think that would work. I think it might be enough. And then they get here, and the mayor would be here. There'd be a bunch of people here, and they're kind of just eking out an existence in these ruins. And maybe they're plotting something, or maybe like they're working towards it, but they're not actively ready to do it. So when the goblins get up here, they're not actively ready to resist or to fight. But the mayor makes it clear that, you know, she doesn't want them here. And if they are around, or if they're looking, or if they'll just see one of them run off. I want to make it very obvious that one of them is running off, and that he very much looks like a wood elf. So maybe that's what I do with the mayor. And then it's not an entire encounter. The mayor doesn't want to fight or can't fight. Or again, if there's 60 of them and they're all armed, maybe they don't want to fight it. Maybe they don't even engage the mayor. They see that, like, even if they have simple weapons, maybe they have like spears, fire hardened spears or whatever. They see that there's 60 elves here that are, you know, they're not combat, they're not soldiers, but it's still a good number of elves. It's enough that you don't want to go poking that bear. So yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I'll have the mayor and the 60 elves that left just hanging out here. And maybe there's some guerrillas in the mix. Like maybe there's some guerrillas that are either training them or helping them make weapons, and they'll see the guerrilla leader run off when he's spotted. And that'll be that. Yeah, so then hopefully the chase starts. Play the music, boom, 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 and we go from there. And I keep forgetting, so I'm going to do that now. I have a bunch of music that I downloaded. So this is Will Savino, aka Music D20, music_D20 on Twitter. And I supported his Patreon. And the cool thing, again, I think I mentioned this last time, a lot of these Patreons for like maps and for music, you subscribe and, you know, you pay like $5 a month or $5 a creation or whatever it is, whatever your level you're willing to support is. And they give you their entire back catalog, which seems weird to me, because it seems, again, like if you didn't support somebody for years and they have a year's worth of material and you pay them $5, you can download all 200 of their songs for the past year or whatever it is. Seems kind of weird. So I mean, I'm going to support them. Obviously, I'm going to stay the patron for a while, but it seems like if you were really cheap or whatever, you could just pay $5 to get a lot of music, which seems weird to me. So this is him, Will Savino, aka music_D20 on Twitter. I also post on Reddit a lot, which is where I found him the first time. But I'm just going to play a bunch of his music in the background, and I'm looking for something. Specifically, I don't have anything really good for the water temple. So I'd like some kind of like temple-y music. That's a vague description. So basically, I'm going to play a bunch of his music, and I'm going to have it on shuffle. I'm just going to leave it in the background, and I'm going to hope that something sounds like a water temple fight. But yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to do here. Oh, the mayor's office. I think I went over this last time, but this was going to be, I was going to make a sneaky fight. I was going to have Squirrel be able to kind of sneak around. This is back when they were going to kidnap the mayor in town, but they decided not to do that. Even talked him into just bursting in. So whatever, that didn't happen. That's gone. So I'm going to, let me move this out of the way real quick, and I can go over here and go to toggle navigation. So now it's not going to be in my list of things anymore. Okay. This song is called The Fey Presence, and this might actually be good for the fought, like when they come to these ruins. This actually sounds vaguely elfy. Yeah, the first one's a hit already, I think. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it so that I think I need to make a new scene, though. So I'm going to make a copy of this scene, essentially. I think you probably just make copies of scenes, right? Elf assaults. Forest chase. Duplicate. And I'll edit it. So first toggle navigation so I can go there. And then I want to configure. I want to call this Elven Ruins. And I'm going to activate it now. And I'm going to take everything off of it now. So I'm going to take all these tokens off. Oh, I'll leave this token here because I might want it later. Don't need the bears. Put the gorilla there. Oh, I don't need Opilius. Put him there. Don't need that one. And then I'm going to take all of these chase things off of it. Boom. So now it's just Elven Ruins. Okay. And I can put the party here in the middle or whatever. And I'll put Opilius. Sorry, I'll put the gorilla there. And then Elf assaults. Right. Where's my mayor? Oh, Faith. There's a whole category here. I'll put Mayor Kalon here. That's noble one. Mayor. Alright, so now when they're here, I can have the mayor. And I want to... I'm going to put it in a map like this. And again, I said before that if you put a battle map down, like if you drop it, like even when you're looking at the town of Faith, there's a grid, then people start measuring things, their mind goes into combat mode. If you put them on a top-down combat map, they are going to start thinking in a combat sense. So the fact that this Elven Ruin map is not a top-down thing, it's a portrait, it's going to stress the fact that I don't want you to be fighting. And they're going to start, maybe they still want to, but it is what it is. And I'll describe it as, there's a lot of elves here. There's the 60 elves you kicked out. So, session 6, boom. So that's the narration we talked about. And I want to add something here, Mayor at the Ruins. The Mayor plus 60 elves that left town are holed up at some ruins in the forest. They are simple weapons, preparing to attack, maybe? If I describe them as preparing to attack, though, it seems like they'd want to do something about it, so maybe I don't know. Maybe not. Spitting notes down. The guerrilla leader is set to meet with them at some point. The PCs can find him there. Start the chase. Impress upon them that there are a large number of elves who are armed. Okay, so again, I don't know if I go out of my way to kind of describe it as a lot of things, but if I mention that they're looking like they're making weapons to attack or something, they might want to actively fight them, so I don't know. I have to figure out a good way to finesse that, because I'd like them not to fight. But it is what it is. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. But I want to have them basically looking. Maybe they sneak up. They're pretty sneaky people usually. They're good with stealth. So maybe they sneak up and they see these things, and they're not trained soldiers. They're not gonna have like patrols all over. It's basically gonna be like a bunch of people sitting in the ruins, and some of them are making spears, and some of them are doing other things. But yeah, they're all here trying to just eke out an existence here. And then while they're doing that, they see somebody who's very visibly not a town elf, who's going to be dressed like a wood elf, come in, and it's going to be clear that he is the guerrilla leader. And they'll chase him. And maybe they take a pot shot and run, whatever it is, but basically the idea is he's going to get away. So I think that's how I that's how I keep the mayor relevant, while not bogging the session down. It's still, again, they can do anything they want. So players will surprise you. And players, they might start talking to them. They might try to entreat with them again, or I don't know. They can go either way with that. And if they spend any significant amount of time here, I feel like we're going to lose the ability to do the water temple. It is what it is, though. I think that's how I have to do it. I didn't come up with anything smarter for how to use the mayor. Like I said, I don't want to introduce a whole like new set of things. I don't want to have a whole new path through the story. I just want the mayor to remain relevant. I don't want her to just vanish. I don't like the fact that they exiled her and she won't matter anymore. So she's here and she's mad and she's got a bunch of elves and maybe they're making weapons. Maybe that's something else they have to deal with. But ideally, the pressure is on to find the guerrilla leader, and he's running. He's spooked. He's getting out of here, and we'll see where we go with that. This one's called Mother of All. I like the. It sounds kind of churchy, but it's not like a. The problem is I need like churchy music, and it needs to be combat music because you're going to be having presumably going to be having a big fight in that church. I think one of my other, I have a different audio thing called Dark Fantasy something. Dark Fantasy Studios. I think I have some music for that. I'll check on that one too. But I want to listen to this new stuff because this Will Savino stuff is new. Yeah, this would be good. Like once they get to the temple, I could play this one. Make a note. Session 6. Okay. Water Temple. That's not to do. Can't edit. Water Temple. Mother of All. As ambient. Yeah, I like that. This is Evernote is the name of the application. It's pretty good. So this is the main window of Evernote. You can have notebooks. So you can, like, I have things like I have my Hell's Vengeance campaign and my Odyssey Jam campaign. Some other ideas I've had. Stuff like that. So yeah, you go to Odyssey Jam and you can look at all your notes. You know, I have stuff here for the Water Temple of Gozreh. All my stuff like that. And if you double click on something, it opens up into like a separate window. So it's pretty good. And it will sync across devices. You can use 2 devices for free. So I have it on my laptop and I have it on my desktop. I used to have it on my phone, but again, I use my laptop more. So it's nice when I have an idea on my phone, I could hop in and edit it. But I don't want to, you know, I haven't paid for it. I'm still using the free version. But it is, yeah, again, I probably should at some point pay for it, Evernote. Because I do like it. It would be nice to be able to use it in my phone. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. And I always ask if people are if people have different note software. Let me know. I know they have things like World Anvil and a couple other campaign managers, but they seem more involved in like if you're creating your own lore and stuff like that, and you want to make like wikis, or you want to have like your own pantheon and everything is linked up and pretty and nice. And I'm not really doing that. I'm taking the Paizo pantheon, the Galarian pantheon, and just using it in my little homemade setting thing. So yeah, so this has been fine for notes for me. I used to just do everything in Google Drive and Google Docs and stuff like that. But this has been a little more organized. I like it. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll have the mayor here, and I'll have 68 elves, and they're very clearly disorganized, but looks like like something serious is happening. Very clearly disorganized. Weapons of low quality. Yeah, so I'll stress that like they're definitely a problem, and that's something we'll have to deal with it. And maybe at the end I'll just kind of hand wave it. Once they take down the guerrilla leader, these people all fall in line and they realize that they can't do it. So maybe they don't have to deal with anything. Maybe they just kind of report this back to Opilius, and Opilius deals with them however it happens. But long story short, I don't want them to actually attack. And if they decide they want to fight 60 elves, I don't really want to make a battle map for that. I really don't want to have a thing. So I might just hand wave it. If they decide they want to attack, I might just hand wave the whole thing and say that if they're in an elevated position, or if they were in any advantageous position at all, that they just win, that they would just slaughter these people. I don't have rules for like hand waving a fight, but again, if squirrels stealthy and in the trees, he'll just crossbow them, and I'll say the townsfolk are one hit basically. So as long as you hit them and they're not wearing very good armor, he's just picking them off. And again, Puck has a sling, so again, if they're using elevated positions, they're not gonna have problems, and the other ones will scatter. So again, it won't be an actual fight if they are determined to murder people or try to assassinate the mayor. They can do that, but they'll scatter basically. The elves will either scatter if they're but we'll see. Again, I want to impress upon them not to do that at all, but it is what it is. And they do the chase, boom, boom, boom. And that's it. I think that's the answer, because that was my big question for the night for this prep session was, what the hell do I do about the mayor? And unless anybody's got a better idea, I think that's the one I'm come up with. I think pretty much the idea is that the mayor will just be here, and she's obviously raising an army, and the players will have to do something about it, either now or at some other time. And it's up to them. And I think we can make that work. All right. I think that'll work. And like I said, if they decide they want to assassinate the mayor, they can take their pot shots and maybe get her. She has 30 hit points. I could maybe make that. I already made her. She already is weak. She's a weak noble. So yeah, I mean, I could take away some of her hit points to make it so that they can kill her even easier. Yeah, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Just shave 10 hit points off. And then if they really, because again, if they want to murder her, just murder her. Like, I don't really need to be just trying to stop them from doing that. So yeah, so they're gonna go here. They're gonna find that the mayor is here, raising an army, and they can kill her, or they can plink at the other gut people. But again, the idea is that they see a wood elf leaving, and they chase him, and that's it. All right. So I hope that's it. That's really all I really needed to talk about. So again, the next session is all the stuff we talked about. Narration. Boom. The guerrillas, the chase. Well, the ruins, then the chase. And then the water temple. And hopefully we can fit all that into the next session. And that's that. And then the session after that is what we talked about. They basically are summoned to the next task. They get back on their boat. They are beaten and battered, and they've lost a lot of people. They came here with like 60. They're going to have lost probably like 20. They're going to lose like a third of their people during the occupation. And they're going to go reinforce their assault, but get blown out to the Odyssey. And we had talked a little bit about some of this. So the first scene that we made here is called Washed Up. And basically they are going to come here. It's going to be a big shipwreck. They are on this beach. They've been blown through this magical storm. Their ship is destroyed. I was thinking I would have them make some checks along the way, because some of them have sailing lore. Yes. So again, one of the reasons I want to get to the Odyssey part is, again, because I want to have this Westmarches player-driven kind of campaign where they hear about a bunch of islands and they decide, okay, so us four are going to play on this day, and we want to go find this other island. We want to go fight the Cyclops we heard about on this island. This whole thing is very much on a railroad right now. I want to get them to the point where they play, they piss off Gozreh, and they're here. And once they do this next, after that session and then this session starts, they wash up on this island, and I want from here to be all them. I want them to figure out what they want to do. And yes, the goal is for them to be, it's completely player driven. That's how the Westmarches style that I'm trying to kind of bite off and rip off a little bit, it works. It's all the players build a party of people. Because in our Discord we have like 8 or 9 people. I think only 4 or 5 of them have, 6 different people have played of like the 9 or so we have. So I'm trying to get more of my friends into it, other people that maybe join, and basically have different groups of people who might show up, like, oh, I can play this week, I can play this week. 4 of us get together. What are the goblins going to do this week? But yeah, the goal is to have them less railroaded. And I was showing, another thing I was looking at was learning and test. So I was showing this off a bit at the beginning of last session. Was I want to have like this kind of hand-drawn map style, and a lot of this art is from Limithron, who has a Patreon, and he does a lot of like pirate boats and pirate maps and stuff like that, pirate cartography. And he released a map making kit, like, so basically you can make a treasure map And I want to use it less as a treasure map and more as like, this is a map of an archipelago. So basically, they're here on Circe's island, so they can have like this picture here, and they can hear Circe tells them, oh, there's an island with a giant frog over here, there's an island with a cyclops over here. Basically, through role playing, she can tell them about some things nearby, and then they will maintain their map. And I still have to work on it because, like I was saying last time, players don't have access to these tiles, like this tile layer where you drag things around like that on a tile layer. They can't do that. They can only interact with tokens. So basically, I have to take all of those tiles and make them tokens and give them access, give the players access to them, basically, give them ownership of it, and then allow them to name them and move them around and figure out how that'll work. But the idea is that they maintain their own map. Like, they would come here, and let me just delete this big one right now, and let me delete this line. Yeah. So, like, this is Circe's island, that's the start, and they can go, okay, so Circe said 4 days north, so you take this and you drag it, like, make it more, like 6 days north, there's an island, there's a giant frog island, something with an island with a giant frog, or whatever. I think we came up with a bunch of islands last time. I think Bijo was here and he was giving me ideas for a bunch of different islands, and I basically want to have 3 or 4 that Circe can tell them, that Circe can tell them about. I gotta rename Circe. I can't just call her Circe, but it's basically Circe from the Odyssey if you're familiar with it. But again, the goal is to have them not be railroaded. So at the beginning of the, I guess it'll be 6th session if I'm lucky, if they finish the temple when I hope them to, they will be washed up on the beach, and they realize their ship's destroyed. They'll see some of their NPC friends are dead, and a lot of other ones are missing. And they will be basically their bodies will be being looted by these wolf fae, which are pugwumpies. And I think we have a nixie, like a sea fae as well. So this whole time they've been called fae by the elves, and basically when they finally wake up after their crash, they're going to be actually being looted by fae. So they're going to realize that they're now in the realm of fae. Maybe this isn't the first world, but it's where fae are. So again, the elves stress over and over again that the fae aren't supposed to be here. They're supposed to be in their own world. We promised we wouldn't go there if you didn't go here. And they kept calling them fae over and over and over again. And then when they finally get here to this weird place, so after they piss off Gozreh, and Gozreh blinks them into the Odyssey, the first thing they encounter is fae. So they get here. They have this easy fight where basically these fae are here to loot their bodies and stuff. And then they have to figure out what the hell's going on, what they're going to do. Presumably they wander inland. Eventually they meet Circe, who I am going to... I think I start setting her up yet, or no? Let me see. I thought I did start setting up, but where did I put her? War Temple of Faith? No, not Elf Assaults. I made it Nixie? No, it's not Nixie. Oh, Odyssey. Yeah, the big blue folder. Calypso, which is really be Circe. Mixing up my stuff. So I was thinking about making her a Naiad Queen. So I made her a weak one, which is still a level 6 thing. So I don't intend the party to fight her. And if they do, I intend for her to treat them as more, like, so beneath her that she thinks it's a joke and funny that they would dare fight her. But again, just like Circe in the Odyssey, she's an enchantress, she is an alchemist, and she is basically capable of, she has like polymorph type stuff. Polymorph type poisons and stuff like that. So, long story short, the goblins woke up. Before they did, some of their allies, like humans and dwarves and stuff, woke up, and they met Circe as well, and they were turned into animals. I don't want to go into all the details about it, because we talked about it, I think, on the last session a bunch. But long story short, they are turned into animals based on their personalities. And so, like, Opilius is around, and he might be a lion or a panther or something. And some of the others are around, and they got turned into pigs or goats and things like that. And I'm going to be dropping hints throughout the whole thing. People who might be familiar with the Odyssey might get glean some hints out of what's going on. I describe the animals as being oddly calm or preternaturally intelligent looking or things like that. Basically, like, the animals maintain some semblance of their stuff, their intelligence. Then the party's going to meet with Circe, and Circe is genuinely interested in them, talks to them, and it wants to be helpful. And her magic doesn't work on them. For whatever reason, hand wave it away, GM magic. Her polymorph stuff does not work on the goblins. So she's more curious than anything. She doesn't know what goblins are about. And what would you do with 1 or 2 humanoid ones? I was thinking that some of them might have washed up on other islands, kind of like what you were saying about the elves, so that maybe the party finds more of them later on. But I was thinking they'd all be animals here, because the one of the gimmicks here that I talked about the last time was that after the party is hanging out with Circe for a while, and she's fed them, and she's being sincere and nice to them the entire time. Then she tells them to go out and get a pig. Like, can you fetch a pig for dinner? We're out of meat. And when they do that, they realize that the pig is one of their allies. They grab they have, you know, a whole scene where they go and get a pig, or maybe it's like they have to wrestle it or capture it or whatever it is, and it's like a funny scene. And then when they get it, they realize that on the leg of the pig, they see like a tattoo that one of the dwarves had. Or like one of the pigs has 3 earrings, and that was described as Lynn, the alchemist, had 3 earrings in her ear. So they get an animal to eat. Maybe they've killed it already. Maybe Squirrel just shot with a crossbow and took it home. But they realize these are our allies, and they see a couple of those, and they get back to Circe and they decide what they want to do about that. And the long story short is that Circe is very powerful, and they can't really fight Circe into doing it. So I don't know, they'd have to talk her into it, or ask her nicely, or not care. And but again, Circe is genuinely nice to the goblins. She didn't like the other people, that's why she turned them into animals. For whatever reason, like maybe they were mean to her, or they're taking advantage of her niceness. But yeah, but she's certainly fine with the goblins and lets them go. And if they make compelling arguments, or if they wish to turn some of them back, maybe she would. But the idea is that she has no real interest in doing that, and the goblins have to come up with a reason why. So I still need to have a map for Circe. I do want to have like I don't want to have like a combat map. I guess maybe I need one though, in case they want to fight. But I was looking for like basically Greek or Roman ruins, or Greek or Roman villas, or something like that Circe could have here. I don't want it to be too big, just something like that. So you're saying if her level 6 form can be defeated, she could come back. But yeah, it's true. She could always like disappear into a spirit and come back later. It's true. They're only going to be 2nd level when they get here. So again, a level 6 encounter is serious business. I guess it's theoretically possible for them to hurt her, but she's very, 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 very hard to kill. 24 hit points, 80 hit points, 24 AC. Resistance fire, weakness is cold iron. So they do have a cold iron weapon. That was one of the things I did in the elf fight. They have a cold iron spear that the old champion, who thought they were Fae and was cursing them out as Fae, hit them with a cold iron weapon. It's true. It's true. So she might not be alone either. I was thinking maybe she has animals in her palace or whatever it is, in her camp, so that when they attack her, maybe they have to deal with a panther or something like that. But yeah, so again, I want to impress upon them that she is extremely powerful. And also, again, genuinely, sincerely nice to them. But, it is what it is. She messed with their people. So, it's up to them to decide how much they care about that. But yeah, so then that's the fight. But again, that's the encounter. That's what they have to deal with. And we'll come up with what we're going to do there. We're going to have maybe like a non-combat portrait of our villa. And then we'll have a combat map if combat breaks out. But that's pretty much this island, is basically you wake up, you're dealing with these Fae, you wander around a bit on the island. Eventually Circe finds you, talks to you, comes back, and we have a lot of role play. You spend a night or two there. Like, again, she's being genuinely nice, genuinely sincere, giving you all this good stuff, and helping you along. And then she starts informing you that there's enough material on the island to build another boat, and there's some wood here. And basically, she's encouraging them to make a boat and scout out, go where you're going. She's not going to stop you. So yeah, and then once they get there, they're free to do whatever they want. Obviously, they decide what they want to do with Circe, but during the role-playing, I'll just casually drop a couple of the other island ideas. Do I have that open? Where is that? Early Islands has the Not Circe Island. I had an idea for like a Minotaur Island, basically where there's a maze. So they land on an island and somehow get sucked into a maze, maybe like a portal or a teleport circle or something like that. And then they have to deal with Minotaurs, which are like kobold-like things, but with a bull's face, and eventually fight a Minotaur. We talked about having some weaponsmiths somewhere. Basically, there'll be like a volcano-type island, and there's like a fire-based, like an Azer or a Mephit or like a fire giant, which is like a smith that can be a helpful character to come visit, where they can kind of trade loot for upgraded weapons. Because again, if they're in the Odyssey, like there's no real a big city they can go and sell all their stuff. There's not a giant magic shop. So I have to figure out a way to deal with them upgrading weapons. And one of the ideas I came up with was to have basically a weaponsmith around that they could come visit and sacrifice loot to upgrade their weapons. I think in the Game Mastery Guide, they have another option for weapons and stuff. It's basically like, I don't know if they call them, relic isn't the right word, but basically they're weapons and magic items that scale up as they level. So I could also do that. Maybe they get them from the weaponsmith, or maybe they just have that. But I think it's kind of like a lazier way of giving people loot that matters, that just kind of scales up over time and they don't have to really think about it or go to towns and stuff like that. But yeah, so I think some of the other ones that came up, this dragon turtle one is pretty big. I talked about it a lot in my, I think 2 sessions ago, so I'm not going to go too much into it now. But I really like this idea of like this constantly regenerating Turesque-like dragon turtle that they put undead on to constantly eat it and keep it unconscious. I like the idea of there being some sort of MacGuffin that you have to go there and get this necklace or whatever it is. But don't kill too many undead while you're there, because if you do, the giant turtle will wake up. One thing Bicho came up with, have dried lumber in the boat. So I guess if they're here and they're building a new boat and they take some wood from a tree, maybe the tree was a dryad or a sleeping dryad or a paralyzed dryad, something like that, and they carve her up and put her into the boat, and either her or a spirit of her is kind of like a recurring ghost type thing in the boat. Polyphemus is a story from the Odyssey. Basically, he is a cyclops that exists on an island, and they find him, and he's farming sheep for cheese. And they land on this island, they find all this cheese, they eat it, and then it's in his cave. And then he comes home, and every day when he comes home, he puts a big boulder in front of his door to like in front of the opening of the cave to kind of close the door. And when he sees there are people in there, he starts eating them because he's Cyclops. And it's a really cool story where they blind the Cyclops and they get out underneath him, and that really pisses off Poseidon, because he's one of Poseidon's kids. Long story short, I like the idea of kind of ripping off some Odyssey stories almost wholesale, just taking them and playing them and like beating them over the head like, hey, you're meeting Circe, hey, this is Polyphemus, and then also doing just random island stuff. Basically anything you can fit into a 3-hour session that you can put on an island can just be its own island. I like the idea of a dinosaur island. It just seems kind of obvious. That one, like maybe one of the early islands should be like, oh yeah, there's an island full of these giant lizards over there, and you can go there to lower level, and there's low enough level dinosaurs, but also like there's horrible monsters there, and maybe there's something of value that they could go there for. One thing Bijo pointed out was really cool, this genie island idea. There's genies, they have wishes. And I was thinking, that seems like a really fun high-level island. You go there when wish magic is very high level. But it'd be really interesting to have people go there at a very low level and get wishes. What would low-level characters do with a wish? But yeah, again, I think we went over a lot of these last session, so I'm not going to go over them right now. I'm not sure what else I'm going to do, though, so I guess we could. But yeah, so Bijo came up with a whole bunch of islands, and we talked about them kind of live last time. And I really like some of them, and I think some of them would be really easy to kind of go with, like have an island of lichens and stuff like that. But the idea is that I'd pick 3 or 4 of them, and I could just start thinking about them, and then have Circe mention them in passing. And one of the ones I've decided on is that there's basically going to be a small island that is a dragon turtle that's kind of just moving around, and that it comes like it moves in a regular pattern at like predetermined intervals. Kind of like you can track it like the moon, and it's on like a feeding circle. Basically, it goes around eating fish or plankton or whatever it does, and it's kind of in a loop. And that she says like, yeah, there's a moving island there's a moving island that'll be here in 2 days or whatever. And they'll start, what do you mean moving island? And maybe Circe doesn't even know it's a dragon turtle. She just says like, just every 28 days or whatever, every 2 weeks, an island comes by. It'll be here in 2 days. And then they can come and see it. Maybe they want to go investigate it. And then you have to figure out what are you going to do on the island. Or do they is just discovering that there are moving dragon turtle islands interesting enough? Because that'll come up later. I like the idea of that being a thing they see once, and then later it becomes a bigger deal. When they see like a small sized island moving. Oh, it's a dragon turtle. That's a big turtle. Wow, and it's an island, and they can go and they can walk on it and explore a little bit, but it's small enough that it doesn't matter. And then later they see like a really big island that is a dragon turtle, and then it's creepy basically. I like the idea of it like a huge island being on Dragon Turtle, and like I said before, the undead Dragon Turtle thing going on. I have another kind of crazy idea like that. So the music hasn't really jumped out at me in a while. I just kind of realized that it's still on, and nothing has really jumped out as being like a really good thing for the fight at the church. That's unfortunate. I'm gonna switch. Open the VLC again. I'm gonna switch to the other music I have. So Dark Fantasy Studio. Let's go with no, let's go with this one's called Mortals or Superheroes. Let's go with Superheroes. See if anything in this sounds like a church bell. Yeah, see, these ones are more like, I don't know what the right word is, upbeat, I guess? I don't know. Like quicker, faster, and that makes me think more fighty type stuff. So let's listen to this while we're thinking. But yeah, getting back to what you said, yes, the idea is that it's a free-for-all. It's whatever they want to do. It's much less railroady once they get to the islands. Yeah, I don't have much else. I got 15 minutes left in the stream, and I got nothing else to do. Might just call it early today because it's been a heck of a week. Work was killing me all week. But yeah, I like what we came up with. I like the idea of using the mayor at the. This is a bit heavy. This is metal. I like the idea of having the mayor at the Elven Ruins and having her there in a situation where they can't really talk to her because she's surrounded by a bunch of other people, and they can attack her if they want. They can assassinate some people, or they can, again, they'll see the guy running and they'll need to go get him. This is not really good for that scene. Let me look at the water temple and feel it between life and death. And I guess I should familiarize myself a little bit more with the NPCs in this fight. So while we're listening, we'll look at this. So the elf guerrilla leader is, again, he's a level 3 kind of rangery type thing. What's the best ancestry? I don't think there's a good answer for that. Do you have a favorite? Is it halfling? Again, I played a lot of 1E. I have not played that much 2E. And all my players are vampire. I mean, all my players are goblins. So, I'm kind of stuck there. You think humans are the best still? I liked humans in 1 because they got the free feat. What do you like about them in 2? I played a gnome for like 6 or 7 sessions in a 2E campaign. Versatile heritage. Let me look it up. Is that like where you can be like part something else? Versatile heritage is clicking. Yeah, you can be like an Aasimar. Yeah. But can't and other things be that now? Is that only? Can only humans have versatile heritage? You can't be like a gnome Aasimar now. Aasimar. Did it censor you saying Aasimar? Yeah, Aasimar. I don't know. But yeah, I thought I saw things like you could be like a dwarf tiefling. Is that no longer a thing? Or is that... I thought I saw something like on Reddit. Some people said you can do that now. It says like they're shared by many ancestries, so I think you can be, right? Oh, they have a heritage called versatile heritage? Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. Well, that's confusing then. Got it. Humanity's versatility and ambition have fueled its ascendance with the most common ancestry of both nations of the world. Select the general feat of your... Yeah, so they get a free feat? Okay. I mean, that's like what they had in Pathfinder 1. That's why I thought they were powerful in that. Yeah. Yeah, that's not confusing at all, Pathfinder. So going out and making a versatile heritage category and then calling a specific heritage a versatile heritage, that's not confusing. I thought they might fix a lot of that with 2. My friends and I would always joke that, like, you know, the way that, you know, original D&D and 3.5 and Pathfinder, the way they overrode a bunch of terms like level means 9 different things. It's always confusing when you get a new person and you say like, okay, you got you're a level 2 cleric, and he's like, then I can cast level 2 spells? No, you got to be a 3rd level cleric to cast level 2 spells. Yeah, playing a gnome was fun. I small races. I played a gnome again. I played a gnome cleric. And again, we were playing in the beta rules, and then when they came out, they're full on. We switched, but we only played like 8. We only played 8 sessions before that campaign fell apart. It was fun playing a gnome. I like that a lot. Like playing. I was a gnome war priest, and I had a shield. I blew a general feat on the raise a shield reaction, and I was having a lot of fun with that. Elves are fast. They have 30-foot moves. What don't you like about elves? I don't like elves in general. That's one of the reasons why I made them like horrible monster assholes in this very brief campaign entry beginning. But what don't you like about elves specifically in Pathfinder 2? And I'll pull them up and look at them while you're talking about them. Elf. In general, I really like the way that they did Ancestries and the way they did the heritages and stuff like that. It's much more interesting than it used to be. Weak Constitution. Just that they have a Constitution penalty? Is that what you're talking about, or? Yeah, they have a Constitution flaw. I mean, you can always work around that. I mean, you can always put points into Constitution with your class and stuff. Hmm. They're alright, though. They're not the worst. What is your least favorite Ancestry? Is Elves the one? Is that it? You don't really like them? That's it? Do you have an Ancestry that you do not like at all? I haven't played enough. I really should look around and stuff. I made a bunch of NPCs in this campaign of different races, but I haven't really dove into, like, you know, all the different traits and stuff. Or to just... What do you think of the new ones, like Leshies and stuff? Which one did they release? A lot of new races. They got flesh warps now and stuff. What is that? That was an Azarketi. Inheritors of Shattered Empire's legacy hold their proud traditions close but surface interact. Okay, what are they talking about? I don't know what these things are. Click for more details. They're Gilman. Looks pretty cool. Yep, there are the gills. Those could be fun in my campaign. These could be a fun group of people to have on an island. Literally dies if they stay out of water too long. Eh. That's less than great. There it is. At least once in a 24-hour period, so you gotta submerge. Yep. After 2 days, you start suffocating. That'll do it. But it's like any water, so basically you can just take a bath. You just lay down in a bathtub or something. But yeah, it's pretty harsh. Yeah, nothing's jumping on me. I really want like music for the cleric fight. Whatever. I think let me switch albums again. I think this one, Immortals, had like a lot of... like this. Yeah, see, just off the bat, this one. This one already sounds more godlike. Yeah, like I was saying, I like the Ancestries. Again, I wish I could play more as a player, or maybe I should make some more NPCs. But I really do like the way that they have the Ancestries and the Heritage now. It definitely feels like there's differences. Like the different elves are different. I like it. It's not just like in Pathfinder 1, you could like trade your traits. You go, oh, you lose low light vision and you gain this, and it never really felt like a different kind of elf. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm min-maxing my elf to do this. And yeah, I mean, like maybe that's just me being a min-maxer. Are Shunies the dogs? The people have like pugs dressed as knights. Is that a Shunie? Yeah. Yeah, I saw some people do that with like they have like like pugs dressed as knights. Oh man, I don't know. Nas has a pug though. The guy that plays Even has a pug named Napoleon. So maybe he would play a Shunie. I don't know. This is pretty good, but it's not. Again, it's not like fighty enough. It's close, but it's not what I want. I mean, you could always handwave them as more breeds. They don't have to be pugs. I mean, that's just your game. You do what you want. And if your GM says no, you have to be a pug. That's a problem. So yeah, so again, let's look at the actual fight that's going to happen here. So the acolytes in the front, before I get to the other people, the acolytes in the front, they have basically nothing. They have a net and a staff. I thought they have spells, but it looks like I don't actually have anything set for them, which is kind of odd. Oh, they do. Yeah, so chill touch, detect magic, shield, heal. They have gust of... you have Tidal Surge too? Wow, I didn't think you had that good of a spell. Yeah, but there's no water around, and they can use Gust of Wind, I guess. But basically, they're supposed to be speed bumps and temptation to do evil things. Like they only have 6 hit points each, I think. They're weak. They're level 0 creatures, so that if the PCs sneeze on them, they're going to kill them. But yeah, they're going to burst in. The acolytes are going to be begging them not to come in, and you know, at the worst case, I'd say maybe they throw a net or something. One of them might try to use... oh, there's a pond of little water. There's a little thing here. So they could do like a hydraulic push out the door. So one of them could come over here, and I'm not sure why the spells aren't slotted or whatever. Here, let me look at this. Edit NPC. If you take... you gotta drag them somewhere. Because this is... sometimes it does like that. Nope. Tidal Surge. Nope. Nope. Sometimes like in the tool they make you have... is it because it's set to 0? Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. So I actually have to drag this in and say, now you have a Tidal Surge is slotted, and now you have a... yeah. So I don't know how many spell slots an Acolyte is supposed to have. So I'll have to look that up. Maybe they have 0, but maybe it's when I made it weak they became like that. So now I go over here and I have spells, so now I can use Tidal Surge. So yeah, it's not that great of a save for them because they're low-level Acolytes. So yeah, so basically when they come through the door, maybe I'll move them so that the lady with the net is in the front, and the man over here will basically try to shoot them with water out the door if they come in, and this other lady will basically throw a net poorly. And if they do, damage is nothing, right? Yeah, and then it's grabbed. So basically it's going to throw a net on them. So they're coming through the door, they're begging them not to, they barred the door, they burst through. This one comes up, one of them, water bends, tries to knock them back out the door. The other one will throw a net, and they'll try to shut the door again. And if the goblins resist in any meaningful way, like, they're going to kill these things. And they cut through, there's more things. And again, this is set up, I guess I need to reset the fog. Let me do that. Reset fog of war, yep. So they come in like this. I guess I would basically move them like this or something. I have to manually move them so they could see the outside of the temple, I guess. I'd say like, hey, you cross this beach and you watch as the guerrilla moves in like this, and you get to the temple, and they have to open the doors and see all the stuff inside. But yeah, they come in here, they fight these people, and again, I don't know how many spell slots they're supposed to have, but basically they're gonna do the water bending. Maybe they have a heal, but if they get hit, the heal won't matter because they're gonna die. 6 hit points. That's easily anybody's doing that at 2nd level. They can cast shield, try to save themselves. But yeah, the gimmick is they're gonna die quick, and they come through, and then it's the priestess, the triton, and the ranger. So the guerrilla leader is, I think he's a poacher. I forget exactly. I ripped off an NPC, and again, if you are using Foundry or if you're new to Foundry, check out the compendium browser. Basically, go ahead and get the 2E rule set, and they have this wonderful compendium browser that they've added all the bestiaries, all of the adventure paths, all the NPC gallery. And they've added everything in here. And if you go to load packs, you can check on things. Like you can say like, oh, I want to have the iconic NPC, the iconic PCs. I want to have the Troubles of Otari, all the monsters from that. And then you can search for anything over here. Like if you search for ooze, like they have the slithering or whatever. So some of these might be from the slithering. I don't know. But basically they have all these cool things where you can just drag them straight into your game. And they have all these cool things you can filter by, like, sizes, alignments, or what levels you want. All these cool things. So, like, if you're looking for stuff between levels 1 and 3, for example, if you're looking for something to put in here, you can do that. And you sort by level. And you can start looking, oh, I want to see, oh, look at this stuff. And you can click through it and kind of browse around. So, this bestiary is really cool. And that's kind of what I did for a lot of the NPCs. So, I think this guy, this guerrilla leader, I think he's a poacher. I think that's what I took. Either that or I took something else from the forester category, and I basically made him so he's like that. He has 45 hit points, 20 armor, so he is, he's gonna dodge a bunch of hits and take a bunch when he can. But his gimmick is he's up here and he's got a range attack. That's pretty much it. His forager and master tracker doesn't much matter, but hunt prey does. So hunt prey is not a joke. The other rangers in the party, Squirrel uses it all the time. Listen to the music for a second. It's not really what I want for this fight. Yeah, so hunt prey, basically, the thing is, the first time a tracker hits and doesn't prey in a round, they deal 1d8 precision damage. So that's, like, again, that's huge. So he's up here and he's gonna take shots. So he looks, and he's got a short, or whatever, a longbow or a short bow, I forget which. A composite longbow. So he doesn't need to load like the crossbow like Squirrel does. So he just looks out, he says, okay, I'm gonna look at Squirrel. I use one action to hunt prey, and then I'm going to take my shot, deal 1d8 plus 3, and then if I hit and I was hunting you, I do another 1d8. So I rolled 7 there, but 1d8 plus 3 plus 1d8, so 2d8 plus 3, that could max out at 19 damage. That's pretty insane. And then, he gets other shots. He could take a second shot at plus 6, which still is not that bad. He does not get the precise strike or whatever on it, the hunt prey bonus on it. But still, he's up here living his best life, taking a bunch of shots, and they have to do something about that. And I don't know what they're going to do. So that is hard enough. And then you got his elf priestess standing in the water who is trying to use water magic and air magic to push you into the water. So you have to fight this Triton, who is like one of the favorite of Gozreh. I'm kind of just hand-waving and saying that. And his reef octopus. So what else does the priestess have before we get on? So basically, she throws a rock. That's not fun. She got out a flail. I guess I should give her a net, like the Acolyte have. That would be more fun if you had a net. But in terms of magic, she's got the Tidal Surge, where basically you push people around. And the Gust of Wind, which, what is it really? You can't move against the wind. It knocks them prone. That's fun too. Critical failure, you knock 30 feet in the way and they're not prone. Yeah, so her gimmick is she's trying to move them around a bunch while the archer is shooting and while the other things are fighting. So if they close the distance, she's got Chill Touch, which is nothing. Again, I think it was like 2d4 plus, what was it? You smash the button, do it, right? Yeah, 2d4 plus 1. Not bad. Got that going. She can heal. And Sanctuary, if they get too close, she can cast Sanctuary. But I want her to be moving things around. I want her to be using attack spells. But yeah, the thing is, if they get too close, she can cast Sanctuary on herself and give herself some time. Then she can go around healing and whatnot. So that's that. The Triton is just, he's pretty standard. He's like a melee guy. So the gimmick is you want him running up and fighting with the Trident. 1d8 plus 6. Again, that's huge. And again, they're going to be second level. They haven't leveled up their characters yet, I don't think. Let me see. I know that Squirrel didn't level up. Did anybody else? Did Franco level up? Franco started, at least. He has 18 hit points. Is that already after he's increased it? Maybe? No, it says max 34. Okay, there you go. So he didn't heal. That's what it is. All right. So I'm sitting there like, that's not that many. But yeah, so 34 hit points. I'm feeling much better now about the rolls that are going around here. Yeah, so 1d8 plus 6 is still, 2 good hits and you're gone. So the Trident, again, his gimmick is he gets up there and fights. This Defender of the Seas ability isn't that really useful. Trident interacts to raise their Trident, +1 to AC next turn. That's cool. So basically, if he's standing next to the Priestess, he can give her an AC bonus. But the cool thing here is the Aquatic Ally. That's basically, he takes the first round of combat to blow an Alcant and summon this Reef Octopus. And then, if they get close enough, they have to deal with this octopus. So they got the beak that has venom in it, so there's poison involved. And again, I really love how Foundry puts everything out there. So if I'm making the strike, there's also venom here. And I go, oh, what is it? It tells you the save you have to make there. And sometimes they actually give you the button to roll. Like you see over here, I think I had like a make a fortitude save. So kind of sad that the poison doesn't have it, but it's easy enough to call for a fortitude save. And then you can mash the button to just roll the damage. And yeah, so again, you got this thing. It's biting. It's with the beak. It's got tentacles that can grab you. It's a lot of fun stuff there. I just really like that idea that this Triton is going to be stabbing at you with the trident, and the Priestess is being annoying and pushing people into the water with waves and knocking people down with air, assuming they fail their saves. And then there's an octopus, and all the while this elf gorilla is plinking at them. And this is like, the epic conclusion to the chapter, if you want to call it that. This is the last fight of the occupation before they move on to bigger and better things in the Odyssey. And yeah, that's pretty much where that's at. And I think that's pretty straightforward. I mean, there's not too much to really think about. He shoots. that's what he does. Nothing else really matters. He declares a prey and he shoots. The Priestess moves people around. She can use Sanctuary to kind of give herself some time. She can heal her. I think I should give her a net. I think I want to give her a net. I don't think you can copy attacks, which is kind of annoying. Like, I wish with items and stuff you can move them around. So if I take her and like, I can't move this net over here, right? Oh, I can. It didn't copy it though, it moved it, which is kind of... Well, I guess I could cheat. If I take her and I copy that, I can take it from this copy. There you go. And I'll take your net too while I'm at it. And I'll take your holy symbol. I don't know why I don't have... I guess I have a manifesto is what I have. Okay. So then I'll delete this copy. Done. Easy peasy. And I really should label these elf acolytes. Like, there's elf acolyte 1 and 2. Because when you roll initiative, they show up. They should have numbers, basically. All right, so now the Priestess has a net attack. I need to change it, because the rock is a +9, so I should basically make it match that. 9. And that's all I have to do, really. That's the only thing I need to change. Yep. So now she has a net as well. And it has a cool icon and everything. That's so sweet. That was easy. Oh, you crit failed. Good job. Good job, lady. All right, yeah, so that's kind of what I'm going to go with. She's going to have a net in the worst case scenario when she gets kind of trapped. But again, hopefully they're fighting in the water. Like, the Priestess isn't going to leave the water. It's going to be at least rough terrain, so that, it's going to cost double to move through it. I should look up if there's any special rules about moving through water. Great question. That's way too many. Burns in flowing water? I don't think it's really flowing water. Maybe I should go rough terrain first. Alright. Badoop. Currents are great or difficult terrain. Ba-dum-ba-ba-bum. Yeah, I might just call it difficult terrain. Moving while jumping ignores terrain. Yeah, so I think I'll just call it difficult terrain, but it's not like actually difficult. But we'll say the water is moving, so you need to make some kind of a check, either an athletics check to just strength it out, or we'll say if you I'll do it athletics or acrobatics. I think will probably be how I would do it, and they can move their speed if they make a good check or something like that. Just kind of hand wave it. Then if you want to muscle your way through, or if you want to be jumping through the water. You can make your way through it. But again, I want it to be a little challenging, and I want the the elf priestess to kind of move through the water gracefully. I don't know what her rolls are, though. I should probably... Acrobatics is not great. Athletics is a bit better. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I tweak it so she has a better athletics check or something like that, but so she moves more gracefully. And the Triton can basically swim through it. He doesn't care. He's moving up like that. And the gimmick is that the... they can move through this water, and they're pushing them further in, and then once they're in the water, the goblins are in a worse spot. And that's it. So part of me wonders if I should sample the combat and kind of see if this is going to get too bad too quick, because level 3, level 3, level 2, right? So if I have the GM notes over here, I bring this up because I haven't memorized this yet. If you look at... So the party would be 2, so this is now party level 1. So there's 2 of those for 60, and then there's a flat party level is 40. So that's 120, 160, which is extreme. For a 4-person party, that is an extreme fight. That's the top of it right there. Even for a 5-person party, that would be an extreme fight still. It'd be just barely extreme, but this is very clearly extreme. So yeah, that might be too much. I could always scale things back a bit, like if things are not going well enough, I could play the priestess as being worse than she is, or I could have the Reef Octopus not do that much or something like that. I can always scale it down on the fly, but as it is right now, again, this is the climax of the chapter. This is the big fight. This is where they're supposed to piss off Gozreh. This is a big point in the story, so I think I'll leave it as it is, and if I need to scale it, I can scale it. But yeah, this fight is pretty straightforward. It's a bunch of powerful NPCs, and hopefully we get stuff. So I'm a little worried. Like I said, right now I have 4 RSVP. Oh, sorry, I have 3 RSVPs. We have the Ranger, the Swashbuckler, and the Oracle. So if that's all that comes, if I can't convince some other people to come, I think Shirag, the guy who plays the bard G-Pain, is a maybe. He's checking with his wife if he can play. But if there's only 3 people coming, this would be a really, really, really hard fight. And if that was happening, I might drop these down to weak. Oh, she's already elite, so if I turned off elite, she goes down a good deal. So yeah, so I made her elite at some point. I guess I wanted her to be like a badass priestess. But if I turn her off, like, she loses a bunch of hit points. So yeah, that might be it then. Because then if you do that, she's level 2. Now you're looking at this. So now you have party level, so it's 40, 40, and 60 is 140, which is in severe again. So yeah, so making her non-elite would be easy, and I could always make the Triton weak, or I could do, like, I can tweak these numbers pretty easily. But having only 3 people kind of worries me. Again, the way the action economy works and things like that, I kind of assume a 4-person party is ideal. I play with up to 5. I haven't really wanted to play with 6. Hasn't really come up, I guess, but I've also told people that I wouldn't really run for more than 5. Have you ever played with a large party, Goodoffer? In 2E? Have you ever played with a large party? Like, have you played with more than 4 or 5 people in a party in 2E? Oh, you've been in a Westmarch? A 2E Westmarch? Or just or some other system? I'm curious to hear other people's experience with March campaigns. I've heard a lot of people. I've seen some posts about people doing it like on a Discord, like basically where the quests are posted on the Discord and people kind of work like that. Yeah, that's interesting. Is it like your friends have played it, or did you find a bunch of people online to play with, or how'd it go? I've been thinking a lot about opening this up to other people, like public people, basically. You were part of that server, yeah. So, what server are you talking about? The one that I had heard about? Because I read a blog post recently where someone was talking about how great Discord is for running Westmarches campaigns. I don't think I've heard of that one. One's a Kalian? I need to check it out. Is that like a publicly acknowledged campaign? Is this something I can find about? Or is that... If I Google that, is anything going to come up? I see a Reddit post. And... yeah, and there's a picture. I see art. Is this you? Who are you? Are you in this picture? It's one of them's yous. And yeah, it looks like it was only a month ago someone posted this. Oh, maybe someone else used the name then. Yeah. Yeah, this looks like a legitimate Westmarch campaign. Assuming this is this thing. Oh, and they play on Foundry. Yeah. All right. Well, is this one you? Did you find it on Reddit? Yeah. So they started a Westmarches campaign and was only one person running it. Is that what ended up happening? Like they tried to make it so that multiple people ran games and it didn't take off. No one commented on it. It's sad. That was a month ago and no one really bid, I guess. People, yeah. That happens. Well, the thing about the Westmarches campaign, though, it's supposed to be, like, people come whenever they can. Like, in my game, we're scheduling every 2 weeks on Saturdays just because I think that's the easiest time to play. But, like, again, and the stuff Matt Colville was talking about, it's basically, like, 4 people can come on this Tuesday. Is anybody available to GM on that Tuesday? And they kind of make it work. And if you have a group where there's multiple GMs and there's multiple people playing the game, that works out really well. But in my experience, that doesn't happen. I haven't ever had that. Shirag, the person who plays G-Pain, he runs his own Pathfinder 2 game. He's never run anything for me, though. I'm trying to goad him into letting me play. I'm really sorry to hear the campaign didn't work. Or didn't last. How long were you playing in it? How long did it go on for, and what level do you guys get to? Last July? Okay, so yeah, that was it's a good while. That's what, like 8 months? If you said it broke up like last week. Yeah, what level do you guys get to? Yeah, I've seen with a couple different characters. So I played in a Zweihander game. It's a different RPG system, and they had like a stable of characters. We only got to level 2 on one of them. They don't really have levels in Zweihander. It's a little more complicated, but I got to the second tier of professions. You started at 4, and you got to 10 on one of them. That's pretty cool. I like the idea of people having multiple characters too. Especially if you're gonna have different levels of stuff, like if a bunch of like level 4 people want to go out and you have a level 10 character, you could just make it a level 4 character to go with them or something. I like that idea. I think if you had a big enough community, and especially if some of them are running games, I think that could work out really well. Like I was saying before, Shirag runs a game for his friends. I think he runs like an in-person game that kind of moved to the internet because COVID. And I've been kind of poking at him, like, hey, we should do something. I wanted to run something for me. I've been trying to get at least run a one-shot, but it would be really cool to have a Westmarches campaign with him. Like, I'd like to have other Pathfinder GMs that actually, want to run games. And then if we had a shared world, even if we just use like Galarian or something like that, so it'd be easier. Cause we don't have to write up lore and stuff like that. Short one-session quests where we kill monsters and occasionally do done. Yeah, that's pretty much what Westmarches is about. So again, like the map existed between sessions, right? You decided to go someplace and do something, or was it player driven or was it GM driven? Like, did players hear rumors and then go, oh, we want to go investigate that old dungeon or that old castle, or was the GM setting stuff up? Because I think it's like, again, the Westmarches that I read about and heard about was like they're mostly player driven, which seems really interesting to me. I don't know how much that would actually happen in my group. That's why I'm eager to see when we get to the Odyssey part and I kind of just let them loose. I'm curious to see how driven they are to push the story in different directions. Quest on a board. Okay. Yeah, that works. That's pretty cool. So how many GMs were actually in the group? I know you said it eventually fell apart, people weren't running games, but like how many people were there running games? And I'm curious if they were friends in real life or if they were everybody met online and they decided, because I don't know, it's interesting. I do feel like it'd be really nice to GM with other people, but I feel, I don't know, if co-owning the world with somebody is scary. Several. Oh, that's nice. But again, I guess if you had an established setting, or if you were okay with that, I guess you just go into it and do it. Did any of the GMs also play, or were they basically? I think it said, like, I think if I read that Reddit post, if that was actually your group, that they rotated things. So like some of the GMs also got to play as players. Yeah, that's the dream. Yeah, I have essentially become a forever GM, and I wish I was on this side of the table every once in a while for sure. So yeah, I would love that. Again, I'm gonna keep poking Shirag, make G-Pain run a game for me at some point and be just a one shot or something. I'm also thinking about doing one shots as well. So I mean, I have this campaign, and I want to keep my regular schedule of playing every other Saturday. And once we get to the Westmarches side of things, I was thinking of opening it up a bit and being like, oh, when do people want to play? But I feel like the schedule matters. I feel like it matters a lot. And I think if I opened it up too much, it would get kind of chaotic. Yeah, pick up when you could, and eventually nobody could. Yeah, and it's very easy for things to fall apart. Like, once you miss a couple of sessions, it's very easy to start writing off the next one and saying it's not going to happen. And yeah, that's how campaigns die. That happens. That's why I'm a little worried. So the other one I'm running, where Nas is taking a break now, because he's having a baby like right now. Not sure if it's out yet, but basically his wife is in labor, so that campaign is on hiatus, and we've been playing that for I feel like 5 years now, and we got through chapter 4. Took a lot of detours along the way, and I know like eventually he'll be back and we'll be ready to play it back, but I don't know, like, are people even gonna want to? Are you gonna care? Yeah. Let me look up when I have the first session posted from, because it's all on my YouTube. Same name, Jay Mosky. If you check out Jay Mosky on YouTube, I have all of my, well, not all of them, but most of them. So it looks like 4 years ago. The first session is posted from September 23rd, 2016. So that's like 4.5 years ago. Was the first session of Hell's Vengeance. And we just finished chapter 4. So we're averaging a chapter a year. A little less than a chapter a year. And there were some breaks in there, and there were a lot of detours in there. And that group, we don't have like a regular schedule. We basically play when we can, so sometimes we go like a month and a half, 2 months between sessions, even when we weren't on an actual break. But yeah, so that's going. And I feel confident that group will get back together again once Nas's life calms down. You know, I have a 3-year-old. I remember having the infant. I can't imagine having both. So I assume he's going to be having a rough time of things. So that game is on hiatus until he is ready to come back, and I'm hoping and I'm pretty sure he'll come back for that. He'll be more able to slide into these kind of games. Like, I don't know. Again, obviously his life's going to be upside down for a little bit, but he might be able to make it into one of these pickup, you know, every other Saturday kind of games. I have hope. We'll see. But yeah, I really like the idea of an actual Westmarches game. I feel like I play with my friends most of the time. I don't really play with strangers on the internet. I did that for a while when I was running this website called Sync RPG. I was trying to make map tool, have drag drop stuff. Basically, the all the cool stuff we talked about in the bestiary here, where you can just kind of drag a thing in here. I tried to make a website that did the same thing for this older VTT called Map Tool. It's an open source one, still around. But basically, I tried to recreate that sort of thing for that before Foundry was around. And in order to show off the VTT and to get people interested in it, I would run games for the public. Anybody that wanted to come and was willing to install the VTT and play could run, like, it was basically Westmarches. There were like quests on a board and stuff like that. And they would come and I'd play with whoever could show up that week. And I don't know, I was really uncomfortable with it. I'm a very shy person, I'm an introvert, and I did not like having strangers from the internet come play games with me. When I got into it, I was usually okay with it, but like I remember like dreading the session starting. I remember like loading up Google Hangouts or Google Meet, whatever it was, and like just my stomach just being in knots thinking about, oh, I have to interact with people I don't really know. So I don't know. I feel like I should shake that off. I feel like I should get rid of that, and then maybe I could participate meaningfully in some sort of Westmarches campaign, or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely that was very weird. Like I would sit there, you'd load up the yeah, my music started looping already. You'd load up Google Meet or whatever, and you'd go like, it shows you like, are you ready to go? Like, you know, it shows you your picture, join the meeting, and I'd be like, then I'd see 2 people in it, and I'm like, ugh, my stomach would just drop. Yeah, nothing jumped out at me. I really gotta find music. I guess I'm gonna spend the next couple of days, maybe when I'm doing work this week, I'll just have a bunch of RPG music on in the background, looking for something new. Me too. Yeah, so I have only played at a table once, and that was basically a game that people I play with online. We met up for my friend's wedding, for Naz's wedding actually. The guy having a baby when he had a wedding before he had a baby. We went to his wedding in Buffalo, and we all got in like an Airbnb, and I played Pathfinder 1 in person with all of them for the first time. I have been playing online for a very, very long time. I was playing in I guess like 2004, 2005. I was playing on IRC text only. Back in the day, we didn't have like a map tool thing. We didn't have like, you know, a VTT. We didn't have voice. We just were typing. We do /me thinks blah 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 blah. And the GM, this guy Nate that we played with for a while, he would basically do a battle map in like MS Paint or whatever, and FTP it up to a website and tell you to refresh your page. And that's how it worked. And it was pretty, we did a lot of theory of mind, but a bunch of battle maps too. And then, yeah, technology evolved a lot. And I remember that, you know, we played Rise of the Rune Lords on Skype. So no video, because video wasn't that big yet. But we played the entirety of Rise of the Rune Lords on Skype. All the way, chapters 1 through 6 to 16th level or whatever it was. My monk punched Karzug in the face. Spoilers. And yeah, that was crazy too. Again, I hadn't ever played with them in person. I'd never played a game in person. I have always played online in virtual tabletops and chat rooms. I just had that one game where at Nalis's wedding, where we played. Like Nate ran a one shot for us there, and I had physical dice for the first time in my life. It was weird. I wonder how many people are like that now. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking? You've never played in person. You've only played online. And again, if that's a weird question, you don't have to answer. I'm just curious. But yeah, I got into D&D late in life. I think I was 20 years old when I first played, and that was decade and a half ago. I think there's gonna be a lot of people who have only played online these days. I think that's gonna be a thing, but I don't know. Especially now that COVID's around. Have you started playing recently? You've been playing... Okay, so 2 years ago. And then COVID happened, so I guess you started your first games could have been in game stores, but yeah, then everybody got forced online in 2020. But yeah, I think there's a lot of the younger generation. I think are going to be like primarily online only, or at least online majority, because the tools are just so good. I mean, there's definitely a lot to be said about playing at a table. I think the role playing can be a lot better. I feel like it's harder to interrupt people and to talk over people. Using video chat, it's rude, but also if you're role playing, you can role play a rude person. But that goes back in the days of IRC. Like, you could not interrupt somebody. Like, someone's typing what they say, and you can't cut them off because they finish what they're saying and then they hit enter. And I was always frustrated with the fact that like my cleric couldn't cut people off in that game. What was cursed in 20? What do you mean? 2019 was cursed for me in RPGs. What happened? How long did it go before the GM got depressed of life in general or depressed of games? Those songs made me happy. I hope he's all right. These songs all sound scary. These are all like not what I'm looking for. Did your laptop blow up or something, or what happened? I used this song for a fight in my other campaign. School laptops. Makes sense, yeah. Surprised they let you put games on school laptops, or like, IT hasn't solved that problem. I guess it's impossible to really stop people who are dedicated to putting a game on their laptop. I remember installing it back in my day. They didn't have laptops. You played at computers at school. We're in a computer room. We installed Quake and stuff on them. Civilization 2. Fallen Leaves is one of my classics. This is like hanging around an elven city music. This is the elven ambient music I use in most places. I'm still looking for a fight. Looking for a churchy fight. 7 or 8 players that would play simultaneously? And was that Pathfinder 1 or 2? I guess... Have you only played 2? Oh, 5e. I've never played 5e. It still seems like a lot of players, though. Ban someone from missing a session. So, like, it was 8 players that were all playing simultaneously, and one person not showing up was a ban. Fair enough. is okay. This is not great, but this is okay. For the king. Maybe I'll take a note on that. What was boring about the Monster Hunter campaign? This song is great. Not for this, but every time I hear it, I love it. I really want to have like a culty kind of encounter with this one. Let's skip ahead a little bit. It's really good, but it's not for this. How'd that happen? Like, is it just the GM wasn't great at describing what was going on and just left you sit there for 2 hours? I gotta... Oh, this might be it. I wanted to use this one for something Elven related. Alright, I'm gonna play this song, and then I think I'm gonna stop after that. But this might be the one I go with for this. The problem is it's slow, and then it gets good. And then if you're, like, looping it in combat, like, it'll get slow again at the beginning. Yeah, I still don't... Yeah, I'd like to hear that story. Maybe next time. I'm curious how you sat in a dark room for nothing, with nothing happening for 2 hours. And, like, nothing the players did change the situation. That doesn't seem to make sense. Alright. So like this is like nice and slow, and there's like an elf singing, sounds great, and then it gets like dramatic, but it takes too long. And again, if it was like a combat song and like it's 3 minutes long and a minute and a half is like this build up. See, I like this, but again, if you're using this as battle music, it doesn't really work. I like to have stuff like looping in the background, playing this once. I guess you could do that too, if you didn't loop it, if you just played it once, and then after it's over, you just kind of just not have music, or switch to something else. Again, it also feels kind of more culty than churchy. Yeah, this might not work for here, but again, I like it. We had another campaign that ended in a TPK, which led to another game. Is COS Curse of Strahd? Is that 5e shorthand? I see a lot of people posting about Strahd, but I've never played through it. I haven't played any 5e. Yeah. Alright, I think I'm going to call it for the night. I feel like I didn't do a whole lot of stuff today, but we did figure out what we're going to do with the Mayor. We're dumping her at the Elven Ruins. And I do have art for her, I think, right? I have the Mayor. Actually, I don't think I've showed it to them. But yeah, so I do have some art. So again, I'm going to put them on this map. It's not a combat map. I'm going to show her the portrait of the Mayor so they don't jump into fight mode. And they can see that she's there with the people, blah, blah, blah. That was the primary goal of this, was to figure out what the hell am I going to do with the Mayor to make her relevant and not just disappear. And I think that's it. I think we do that, and if I'm lucky, we can still get through everything into the Water Temple. if we get towards the water temple and I realize there's not enough time to do it, I might just have to call it early. I might just have to call the session and say, that's it, we're at the end of the session. I hope I don't have to. I'd like to just kind of speed things along to make sure we get through here. And I also hope that another person comes, because if only 3 people come, I'm going to have to scale this down a bit, which I guess is okay, but I don't want it to be like anticlimactic. I don't want it to get here like frantically scaling down the priestess and scaling down the ranger and make it so that, oh, now whatever, squirrel crits and it's over. So we'll have to figure it out. But yeah, thanks for joining me. Great talking with you. I liked all your input along the way. It was really nice having somebody to bounce ideas off of and just, you know, go over stuff. And I love hearing about your other people's games, so it was great. You had 5 campaigns in 2019. That's a lot. And you find all this, like you basically go on Reddit and or Discord and stuff, and you find games to join, or how do you normally find your games? And then after that, I think I'm gonna call it because I should really get to bed. It's my turn to wake up with the toddler tomorrow. Yeah, maybe I should do that. I don't know. Again, I play with my friends a lot. I should really jump into more public games, stuff like that. I really do like the idea of a Westmarches campaign. I guess I might not have the cycles for it now because I'm working on this whole thing, but it would be nice to actively get into a Westmarches campaign where I could play every once in a while and GM a bunch too. I'll think on it. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. It was great having you here. Anybody else who's watching this either on YouTube or here on Twitch, it's J Mosky everywhere, JMOSKIE. Check me out, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, pretty much everything else. If you like, just join up. I love talking to people while I'm doing session prep. We stream every other Saturday the actual game. If you want to watch some goblins blow stuff up and do other goblin-like activities, I'm around. And yeah, talk to you later. Yeah, thanks for joining. It was great seeing you. Night.